Chapter 425. In this battle, Xiao Tan's opponent was indeed a player who specialized in fighting. His ID was Southern Fist Northern Kick Chunibyu Syndrome. The man looked to be in his 20s. He had a ponytail and was wearing a blue kung fu robe. There was no guild emblem on the robe. Overall, this person's appearance was quite a bit like a Lone Ranger, but his nickname exposed his true nature of being a Lone Ranger. Based on the opponent's stance, he is probably like me, without any long-ranged attacks, Southern Fist Northern Kick Chunibyu Syndrome thought. He was still coming up with a plan when Xiao Tan spoke first. "Hey, Chunibyu Syndrome, can you hear me? What are you doing?" Chunibyu Syndrome roared back in a similar voice. Even though the distance between the two was not that far, due to the howling wind, they could only yell. "You don't have any long-ranged attacks, right?" Xiao Tan asked. Chunibyu Syndrome hesitated. What does that have to do with you? Being asked that in the middle of a battle, how could he answer? Definitely not. Xiao Tan roared. I don't have any either. Hey, isn't this guy being a bit too friendly? Chunibyu Syndrome complained internally. Then he shouted, so what if I don't have any? Then how about we fight on the rope? Xiao Tan asked again. When Chunibyu Syndrome heard that, he was stunned. Several seconds later, he replied, Are you crazy? Of course not. Xiao Tan replied. F***ck. This guy is serious. Chunibyu Syndrome mumbled to himself. He lifted his eyes to look at the rope that was hanging in midair. Fight while standing on it. He shook his head and immediately chased that thought out of his mind. Even though I have confidence that I can stand or run on it, to fight while standing there, and in such a strong wind, that's a bit too much. Stop joking. Who would fall for that? If you're so good, why don't you go up there? Chunibyu Syndrome roared. Okay, I'll go up first. Xiao Tan actually responded. Then, he leaped lightly and stood on the steel cable. Although his position was still above the elevator, his feet were indeed on the steel cable, and he was standing quite firmly. I get it now. This guy is an idiot. Sophomore Syndrome came to that conclusion in his heart. He continued to yell, Since you're already up there, why don't you come over? Let's fight on top of my elevator. Xiao Tan replied without hesitation, You want to attack me while I'm running, right? You saw through it instantly. Sophomore Syndrome's expression betrayed him. He shouted angrily, F***ck. You know it too. In this case, it's obviously more advantageous to stay on the elevator and defend. Isn't it too embarrassing for both of them to stay where they are and not make any progress? Xiao Tan said, Besides, this will be judged as AFGs. Okay. Sophomore Syndrome said, Then come over here. I promise I won't shoot you. But you don't have a gun with you, Xiao Tan replied. By the way, the hand that you're hiding behind your back is already holding some kind of hidden weapon, right? You promise you won't shoot me, and then you'll throw the hidden weapon at me, right? Damn it. Sophomore Syndrome was exposed again. Stop wasting my time. If you have the balls, come over here. I will not trust you anymore, Xiao Tan said. You should come over here. Humph. Sophomore Syndrome scoffed. To put it bluntly, you don't have the guts, right? If you do, come over here. Xiao Tan refused to back down. At the same time, inside Feng Bujue's conference room, the three from Underworld Frontline were naturally watching the livestream of this match. At that moment, Laughing Soul was using her head to knock against the table again and again. Passing Rain looked at the screen expressionlessly, and Brother Ju held his chin with one hand and commented with a helpless gaze, Two idiots. Even though there might not be that many viewers watching Xiao Tan's match, the players who fought against them in the preliminaries might be watching, Passing Rain said. It is indeed a bit embarrassing, but it doesn't matter. After all, you can see similar scenes on TV every summer, Feng Bujue said. What do you mean by that? Passing Rain asked. Feng Bujue did not say anything. He jumped onto the table and pointed at the empty table. Do you dare come up here? Then he jumped down again and stood at the spot that he had pointed at, facing the table. Do you dare come down here? Passing Rain smiled knowingly. Quicksand River? Cousin. Laughing Soul still had her head lowered like she was too ashamed to face anyone. Your sense of humor is being dragged down by the guild leader. If this continues, it will be very dangerous. After Sophomore Syndrome and Xiao Tan yelled at each other for a while, since both of their throats were hoarse, they did not continue. At that moment, Sophomore Syndrome noticed the change on the other side. Xiao Tan had climbed back into the elevator and started to shake the elevator violently. The elevator was like a swing, and it swung back and forth parallel to the steel cable. Is he trying to use this method to shorten the distance between the two elevators? Sophomore Syndrome thought. Regardless of whether this method is effective or not, at least he is trying his best. If I continue to wait like this, I'll soon be judged by the system as AFKing. After shaking the elevator about 30 times, Xiao Tan jumped onto the roof of the elevator and looked at Sophomore Syndrome. Hey, am I getting closer to you? Sophomore Syndrome was startled and thought to himself, if I tell him the truth and tell him that the distance has not shortened, then he will give up on this move, but if I lie to him that the distance has shortened, he will continue to waste his stamina points. As the saying goes, all is fair in war. After a few seconds of internal struggle, Sophomore Syndrome replied, It seems to have shortened a little. Hearing that, Xiao Tan returned to the elevator and continued to swing. Even though I feel a bit guilty, a competition is still a competition. You can only blame yourself for being too naive. Sophomore Syndrome thought to himself. When you have exhausted more than half of your stamina points and are unable to use any powerful skills, I will charge at you from the steel cable. By then, even if I take a few mid-ranged attacks from you, it will be fine. As long as it evolves into a close-range battle, I will win. Wait a minute. Sophomore Syndrome repeated his plan in his heart, and then he thought of something. Hey, isn't this the perfect time to get closer? This guy is inside the elevator, so he can't see me. That's right. The two elevators that were hanging from the steel cable were in a back-to-back state. The doors of the two elevators were facing the opposite side of the steel cable. Therefore, Xiao Tan, who had returned to the elevator, would not be able to see what Sophomore Syndrome was doing. I knew it. Idiocy is contagious. Sophomore Syndrome grumbled as he climbed up the steel cable. I was almost disrupted by his actions. He stood on the steel cable and prepared to charge toward Xiao Tan's elevator. I should use this chance to run over and break the large lock on the top of his elevator. Then he'll be done for. With that thought in mind, Sophomore Syndrome prepared to make his move. But he was suddenly reminded of something, and he stopped. Even though I don't want to admit it, didn't he see through my plan earlier? Sophomore Syndrome started another internal struggle. What if this guy is pretending to be dumb to lure me over? He mumbled. Perhaps, even if he stays inside the elevator, he can grasp my movement. Once I reach the middle of the steel cable, he will jump out from the elevator and ambush me. Just as he was thinking, Xiao Tan exited the elevator again. He jumped on the steel cable and gasped for air. Hey, how come it doesn't feel like we've closed the distance? Sophomore Syndrome's train of thought was pulled back. He hesitated for a few seconds before replying, that's probably just your imagination. I've been watching, and I've indeed closed the distance by several meters. Okay. Xiao Tan answered and returned to the elevator that was still moving. The elevator continued to shake. Looks like I've been overthinking things. Sophomore Syndrome revealed a wicked smile that was unique to Sophomore Syndrome. He thought to himself, my cautiousness is a double-edged sword. Thankfully, this guy is so gullible. The chance is still right before my eyes. Finally, after giving it some thought, sophomore syndrome started to move down the steel cable. A distance of 50 meters, a steel cable that was less than 20 centimeters wide. For a player who was above level 30 and had decent movement skills, it wasn't a difficult obstacle to overcome. If there was no accident, he would only need 6 to 7 seconds to cross it. Even with the interference of the wind, sophomore syndrome did not waste any time. He successfully reached the steel cable above Xiao Tan's elevator. Bye-bye. Sophomore syndrome activated his skill and slashed down with both palms. Name: Green Dragon Claw. Skill card property: active, permanent skill type, fighting, effect. Deliver a punch that can split metal and stone with both palms, cooldown time of 20 minutes, consumption, 600 stamina points. Learning requirement: fighting serene. This skill evolved from the first style of Tiangang Fist. The best way to unleash this skill is to raise both palms before your chest, turn your palms down, straighten your legs, and punch out with both palms. At that moment, sophomore syndrome used the skill's standard posture to activate this skill. His palms slammed together and clamped down on the hook at the top of the elevator. This would ensure that the steel cable would not break and the elevator would fall. His plan was not bad. But just as sophomore syndrome made his move, the side of the swaying elevator door formed an upward angle of 45 degrees. Xiao Tan, who was inside the elevator, was gripping the handrail by the wall and exerting his strength. Suddenly, there was a great tremor from the top. At that moment, there was no time to think. The only thing that could save Xiao Tan was instinct. His instinct told him to jump out from the door and grab onto the steel cable. Therefore, 3 seconds later, Xiao Tan's elevator fell into the abyss. And on the steel cable above the elevator, there were 2 figures standing. The distance between the two was less than 5 meters, but the melee weapons they had were temporarily unable to reach each other. At this strange distance, the two started their confrontation. In the end, it still ended up like this. Sophomore syndrome thought to himself, "Humph, oh well. After all, we're both fighting players, and we're both standing on the swaying steel cable. The conditions are the same." That's not right. If we're talking about conditions, isn't there an elevator behind me? And I'm closer to the elevator. There's only a thin line of space for me to move around. If I turn around now and rush back to the top of the elevator, won't he become a living target? Then I'll toss the flying locust rock or thunderbolt grenade at him. But in the few seconds that sophomore syndrome was considering, Xiao Tan made his move again. Xiao Tan suddenly roared and charged forward. What? Is he coming at me directly? Sophomore syndrome was not someone who would just sit there and wait for death. Even if the opponent wanted to face him head-on, he was not afraid. But to his surprise, Xiao Tan's shadow split into 2, and then 2 merged into 1, and he instantly appeared behind sophomore syndrome. Shadow of the demonic bat helped Xiao Tan pass through his opponent's blockade and rush toward the remaining elevator. What? Sophomore syndrome's reaction was not slow. The moment Xiao Tan's shadow split, he had already turned around. If Xiao Tan chose to turn around after passing through his opponent, he would probably be blocked. Thankfully, Xiao Tan understood that the chance of killing a fighter in one hit was very small. Therefore, he did not stop but continued to charge forward with the help of the skill. *T. Sophomore syndrome soon realized what the opponent was trying to do, and he gave chase. But Xiao Tan had moved earlier than him. His speed and position were much faster, so naturally, he was the first to reach the top of the elevator and stood still. How despicable! You used this kind of to confuse me and make me think that you're going to attack me, but in reality you're going to move behind me to take up the advantageous terrain. Sophomore syndrome stopped in his tracks because if he moved forward now, he would be faced with a direct shot from the Winchester shotgun, and he would not be able to dodge it. These words come out of the mouth of someone with the nickname Southern Fist Northern Kick Chunibu Syndrome. It does not sound convincing at all. Xiao Tan aimed the shotgun with a serious expression. In the current situation, the tactical value of the shotgun was infinitely magnified. Sophomore Syndrome, who was on the rope, no matter which way he chose to approach, he would definitely be shot. On the rope, there was limited space to stand on, and there was no space for Sophomore Syndrome to dodge. As long as he was within a certain distance, some of the scattered bullets would hit his body. Even though the power of these bullets was not enough to kill him, the force of the bullets was enough to shift his body and make him fall into the abyss. Isn't this a good fight? Feng Bujue said as he looked at the image on the conference table. I think he was just lucky, Laughing Soul added. If when the hook broke, the door was facing downward, wouldn't he have? He could have returned to the rope. Feng Bujue interrupted her. He could have jumped out of the elevator door, kicked off the falling elevator, and leaped upward. It wouldn't have mattered whether or not he was able to grab the rope. As long as he jumped higher than the rope, he could have adjusted himself in the air. He paused. Of course, it is not wrong to say that he was just lucky. In that situation, if the opponent reacted fast enough, they would have attacked. In comparison, the risk factor would have been higher. I'm curious, if you were the one fighting in this semi-final, how would you deal with it? Passing Rain asked. Feng Bujue smiled. With me around, the system wouldn't have generated such a map. I would have used Jeppo to fly into the air and used 2 Rankyaku to cut down the rope, and the result would have been decided in 10 seconds. Passing Rain sighed. Looks like the system did send you directly into the Battle of the Butterfly to protect the other players. Maintaining balance on this rope is more tiring than I thought. After facing off against Xiao Tan for a few minutes, Sophomore Syndrome thought to himself. In comparison, even though he needs to free his hands to hold the gun, he has a flat surface to stand on. His situation is much better than mine. He gave a long sigh. Am I going to be pushed into the playoff round? I, who carry the power of light, have torn shackles. Prayers that can't be delivered. The glory of the past is gone. At this moment, as if it resonates with the steps of despair, the powerful and extraordinary power of darkness that is hidden in my body has awakened. After defeating the opponent in front of me, I'm going to seal my rampaging left hand. Such a development. I don't think it's possible for it to happen. Looks like this Sophomore Syndrome also knows that the chance of this coming true is close to 0. Losing in a map like this, you must be unwilling to admit defeat, right? Xiao Tan suddenly said. Actually, I didn't have that much fun. No, I didn't even fight. As he said that, he put the gun down. What? Sophomore Syndrome gasped. Once the words left his lips, he knew something was wrong. Oh no, I accidentally said something that the antagonist used before they were killed. I think since this competition is called Tournament for the Best, every participant should at least have the understanding that I am stronger than my opponent. Xiao Tan said seriously. I can use the safe method to stand here and fight you until the end. When your stamina is depleted, you'll naturally fall into the abyss. He changed the topic. But I don't want to win like that. Xiao Tan paused for a few seconds before adding, Do you still remember my initial suggestion? Sophomore Syndrome answered woodenly, To decide the winner on this rope? That's right. Xiao Tan said as he jumped onto the rope from the top of the elevator. He used the barrel of the shotgun to press against the hook of the elevator and snapped it with one shot. If I said that earlier, you might have hesitated. But now there's no turning back for you. As the elevator fell, Sophomore Syndrome's terror points started to rise. He was not afraid of the situation before him but the presence of the man before him. I think I can win. Xiao Tan put the shotgun away, and the tri-edge bayonet was charged. I know. I can win. Instantly, the black fire left behind by the winged owl burned on the rope. Xiao Tan jumped at the bottom of the rope, hanging upside down. In the space between heaven and earth, a murderous intent bloomed. Shadow Soul Chaser whistled through the air. Chapter 426. I didn't expect you to be so good when you're serious. Laughing Soul gave Xiao Tan a compliment. Especially that last part where you sacrificed your advantage to make the final move, it made someone's heart race. Feng Bujua smirked and pointed at Laughing Soul. Acting cool is more important than winning. That's the truth. Guild leader, don't make up stories that don't exist. It's easy to cause misunderstandings. Laughing Soul narrowed her eyes and gave her brother Ju a side glance. I saw it too. Passing Rain betrayed her cousin without hesitation. Cousin? Laughing Soul's cheeks instantly blushed, and she complained in a complaining tone. Xiao Tan only smiled awkwardly and did not say anything. He was a kind person and usually wouldn't do things that would take a mile when given an inch. Feng Bujua knew when to stop, so he changed the topic. Then, since you've entered the winners group, if there are no accidents, you won't have any matches for the next 2 days. Furthermore, your continuous overtime has ended. You should be able to level up during your rest day, right? I hope so too, Xiao Tan said. But that victory earlier does not guarantee that I'll advance to the second round. What if my result is the last 120 in the winners group? Won't I still have to fight in the playoff round? Have some confidence in yourself. You have 42 wins, Laughing Soul encouraged. There are 1,500 people in the winners group, and only 8% of them need to fight in the playoff round. You always think too highly of others. Actually, most of them only advance after fighting 50 matches, and those who win more than 45 matches can be counted on one hand. Therefore, your result is obviously higher than the average. Is that so? Xiao Tan scratched his head. Of course. Feng Bujua added. Based on her tone, she must have done her research. She must have read a lot of posts on the forum and come up with an analysis based on the name list. He paused for a moment. According to this detective's intuition and experience, for you to be so concerned about someone, you must be up to no good. Aren't you an artist, a literary giant? Laughing Soul interrupted him with annoyance. You've changed your profession again. Humph. When necessary, I can become all kinds of people and do all kinds of things. Feng Bujua replied arrogantly. I have a lot of hidden identities. A few hours ago, I saved Earth from the clutches of the Martians. You only ate some octopus after dinner. Xiao Tan knew him best. It was obvious that Brother Ju had used this trick more than once. Feng Bujua pursed his lips and changed the topic. Well, it's getting late. Let's go queue up for a party dungeon. If we want to go further in the tournament for the best, Xiao Tan's sorcery level needs to be improved. TSK. Don't you care about Xiao Tan too? You're always making fun of me. Laughing Soul grumbled softly. Xiao Tan was closest to her, so he heard her clearly. He leaned in to whisper into her ear, well, there should be something. Laughing Soul rolled her eyes at him. What is there? Hee. Xiao Tan chuckled but did not answer. Do you believe that I'll log off now, drive to your house in 15 minutes, break down the door, pull you out of the gaming hub, and suffocate you with a pillow? Laughing Soul said the whole sentence in one breath. Okay, no. Xiao Tan still gave in to her. Fine. I'm afraid of you. At the same time, in the game market on the main screen, the two casters had just finished a battle, Enigma of the Heavens versus Vishnu. This was a battle between the 6th and 7th place on the combat stat ranking. In the end, Enigma of the Heavens, successfully defeated the number 2 character of Brahman and sent Vishnu into the playoff. While the audience was still discussing this battle, the live stream of another match was switched to the main screen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Commentator A said. I am Commentator Pan Feng. Commentator B added, I am Commentator Hua Xiong. Pan Feng said, that battle earlier was truly heart-wrenching. It left me wishing for more. Hua Xiong said, however, tonight's livestream is not over yet. Currently, there are still many matches between players that have not been decided. Now, please gather your emotions and join us in another ongoing battle. The two game managers did not show up on screen, so the players could only hear their voices. By then, the scene on the main screen had switched to the scenario map. The images of the competition were naturally shot by the system. The camera was usually shot from a high vantage point. The camera would zoom in and out from time to time, and it would even shake. The lighting effects were also used to simulate the real scene. Strong light, darkness, dust, water splashes, and so on would all affect the broadcast images. In terms of sound, it was a 360-degree surround sound. There would not be the sound of a microphone. If the two parties conversed, as long as they were loud and clear, it would be broadcasted. Of course, whispers would not be recorded. In the first round, only Enigma of the Heavens and Vishnu have encountered each other in the combat stat ranking. Looks like these two are not that lucky, Hua Xiong said. Hua Xiong continued from where he left off. The other high-ranking players have won one after another, and the one who is still fighting is this Zen Dream. Pan Feng added, I believe most of the players are familiar with Meng Jingchan. He is one of the top 4 players in Regulation's Drunken Dream, a superstar player among the professional players. He paused. However, I believe most of you are not familiar with his opponent. Let me give you a brief introduction. This contestant Long Aomin belongs to the Guild Blades. His level is the same as Meng Jingchan, level 37, and his title is Berserk Shield. Hua Xiong continued, like everyone else, we have just seen the livestream. From the current situation, it looks like Meng Jingchan has the upper hand and is suppressing Long Aomin. His tone changed slightly. Looks like this match is coming to an end. It is indeed the side with the higher combat rating. Pan Feng suddenly interrupted his partner. Wait. Everyone, please take a look. Contestant Long Aomin's body is suddenly surrounded by golden energy. He has started his counterattack. Is he going to give up on defense and fight to the death? Hua Xiong added, contestant Meng Jingchan has also used a powerful skill to suppress Long Aomin. From the special effect, you can tell how powerful this skill is. This is no doubt a sure-kill skill. The attack is ineffective. Contestant Long Aomin has found himself in a very advantageous position. The two of them spoke quickly, but the two players in the livestream fought even faster. The sound of clanging was the symphony of sword and shield. The rumbling was the chorus of speed and strength. Inside the scenario, Brother Long, who was surrounded by a golden glow, had reached Meng Jingchan. At that moment, the latter, whose stamina points had reached 0, was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Perhaps from the perspective of others, it was Meng Jingchan who was suppressing Long Aomin, but in reality, Meng Jingchan was the one who was forced into a passive position. The reason he kept attacking was because he had no other choice. From the start of the scenario until now, Meng Jingchan had not been able to break through Long Aomin's defense system. When his stamina was almost depleted, Brother Long activated the ability of his title, and with a spurt of energy, he launched a decisive counterattack. Haha! Who would have thought that I would lose here? Meng Jingchan saw that the situation was hopeless, so he collapsed to the ground and mumbled with a bitter smile. Long Aomin was an open-minded person. He would not purposely make things difficult for his opponent. Your fast sword ran into my slow shield, so I can only blame it on your bad luck. In any case, with your ability, the playoff shouldn't be able to stop you, right? Who knows? Meng Jingchan smiled. Don't underestimate me. Our studio has certain requirements for my results. Haha. The pressure is going to be huge. Then, good luck, Long Aomin said as he launched the final attack. Meng Jingchan shrugged. Same here. Chapter 427. At 2 a.m. on the 17th of May, the result of the first round of the Battle of the Cocoon and the list of participants for the additional rounds were announced. Since they were in sleeping mode, there was a whole 10 hours between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. For a 1v1, even the longest battle would be over by now. The remaining time before 2 a.m. was the time for the system to calculate and the workers to organize the relevant information. After Xiao Tan finished a scenario and returned to the login lobby, he received the system announcement that he had leveled up. Looks like Laughing Soul's analysis was reliable. Even in the winners group, 42 wins should not be the lowest. For the next 2 days, Xiao Tan, who had more free time, focused on the sorcery mastery with Laughing Soul's accompaniment. He finally bought a sorcery mastery skill from the thriller box that was not bad and could be used by him. Name: Draw a cross to curse you skill card attribute. Active, permanent skill type. Sorcery effect. Curse a target and the next attack from you will deal an additional 10% damage to the target. Can only be cast on non-friendly targets within your sight within 50 meters. The target will feel that they have been cursed. Can be used multiple times on the same target, but the effect will not stack. Consumption: 2 sorcery energy points. Cooldown time is 5 minutes, and the duration is unlimited until the skill is activated. Learning requirement: Sorcery Mastery F. Remark: the basic sorcery mastery from the 7 chapters of Ghost Valley. This skill was created by the 250th generation of Ghost Valley. Whenever he ran into someone he did not like, he would use this skill to exert psychological pressure on them, creating the illusion that they were haunted by ghosts. Then he would lure them to his paranormal detective firm for a consultation, and in the end, he would achieve the double goal of blackmailing them. This skill was very helpful in increasing the sorcery mastery. A level 35 player had 350 sorcery energy points, so the consumption of 2 sorcery energy points was negligible. Xiao Tan's sorcery mastery was E rank, so his sorcery mastery had a success rate of 40%. Even if he only succeeded once out of 3 times, on average, he would only need 6 points of sorcery to cast a skill. The skill would not go into cooldown if it was not successfully released. Therefore, what Xiao Tan needed to do was to spend 2 to 6 spiritual energy points to use this skill once every 5 minutes. In this way, he would only use up 72 points per hour, and it would take him 5 hours to run out of spiritual energy. During this time, the skill would have been used more than 50 times. The actual situation tested in the scenario was obviously much more optimistic than the above account. Basically, as long as Xiao Tan entered a long scenario for the first 8 hours, he could guarantee that he would refresh every 5 minutes. Furthermore, this skill did not have a specific target. As long as it was a non-ally target, it would work. In other words, the crows on the trees, the tortoises by the river, anything would work. Therefore, for the past 2 days, the players who ran into Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul in the scenario would often see this scene. The player called Wang Tongji in the team would turn his gaze to a nearby living thing every 5 minutes. This living thing could be an ant, a monster, or a passing NPC. After locking onto the target, Brother Wang would silently draw a cross in his palm and mumble, "Curse you." With this kind of targeted strategy, on the afternoon of the 18th of May, Xiao Tan raised his sorcery mastery to level D, but that was where it stopped. Even when the second round of Battle of the Cocoon started, he still had not reached level C. On the night of the 19th of May, Xiao Tan's level had successfully reached level 36, and he had obtained a new fighting skill through the scenario. Name: Binding Teeth skill property. Active skill disappears after 2 uses with skill type. Fighting effect. Use your palm to create a giant tusk to bind the target to the surface closest to you. Cooldown: 30 seconds. The target must have a physical body. Consumption: 300 stamina points. Learning requirement. Fighting C skill card cannot be traded after it is picked up. Remarks: this is a move derived from the ordinary beast spirit summoning spell. The inventor is Roy Secker of the Half-Bear tribe. No matter how one looked at it, Secker was a magic genius. Not only was he familiar with the druid spells of his tribe, he was also quite knowledgeable in the field of necromancy. He is the one and only person who has mastered the two energies of nature and death at the same time. For the past 2 days, Brother Ju purposely had Shao Tan and Laughing Soul Q together because their levels were close to each other, and their power was similar as well. It was best for them to team up to level up. If he joined them, the situation inside the scenario would be unpredictable. From the result, it looked like his plan was quite effective. Finally, at 1 a.m. on the 20th of May, the second round of Battle of the Cocoon began. The second round of Battle of the Cocoon is about to begin. Your data will be loaded in 30 seconds. Please do not leave the login lobby. 10 seconds countdown before loading. 9, 8, 7, 2, 1. Different from last time, this time, Shao Tan was directly transported out. The cocoon that sleeps 3 times deep in the forest, the softness that wraps around the finger has been tempered 100 times. When the opening began, a blinding white light blocked Shao Tan's sight, forcing him to close his eyes. Download complete. You are currently playing Tournament for the Best Battle of the Cocoon. This mode does not have a scenario introduction, hidden side quest, or special worldview. Reward for winning the scenario: advance to the top 720. Main quest triggered. Kill your opponent. A series of voice and window prompts quickly appeared and disappeared. Shao Tan regained the ability to move. He opened his eyes and realized that the light around him was rather dim, but there were still some sources of light. At that moment, he was inside a tunnel. On the wall to his left, there was a dim light bulb installed every 10 meters. The light bulb was about 3 meters above the ground, and it extended into the distance. With the help of these lights, he could see the situation inside the tunnel. Shao Tan observed for a while. His initial speculation was that this should be a tunnel for a train to pass through. First, there were tracks under his feet, and second, the tracks did not appear to be electrified. Furthermore, the tracks were surrounded by pebbles. Furthermore, the tunnel was arched. Its height and width could only allow one train to pass through, and there was only one train track. Then, the problem was, what should he do if the train came? According to the game's usual, malicious style, since the map was arranged in a tunnel, the train, which was full of dramatic effects and would catch the players off guard, would definitely come. I should see who my opponent is first. Shao Tan looked around, but he did not see his opponent. Therefore, he walked to the side with the light bulb. He leaned against the wall and slowly moved forward. He opened the game menu. Brother Long? Shao Tan glanced at the menu and saw that the ID was Long Aomin. Long Aomin was the first friend that Brother Ju and Shao Tan had made after entering Thriller Paradise. They were close friends, so they would often go to the same scenario. Just 5 days ago, Shao Tan had gone to the same scenario as Brother Long. At the time, Long Aomin had joked that perhaps they would meet in the semifinals, but that joke had come true. This is not good, Shao Tan thought. He was familiar with Long Aomin's skills, title, and fighting style. Of course, that was the kind of familiarity that he had as a teammate. It was a different matter when it came to fighting. Other than that, the news of Long Aomin defeating Meng Jingchan 2 days ago had caused quite a stir. Even though Meng Jingchan had returned to the winners group through the playoffs, Brother Long had still made a name for himself. Facing such a familiar yet unfamiliar opponent, Shao Tan was under great pressure. This was because he knew his opponent's ability, and that was why he did not know where to start. He understood why Meng Jingchan had lost. They were both melee players who were known for their agility and dexterity, but Shao Tan could not figure out how to break through Long Aomin's defense. Brother Long should be an opponent on the same level as 7 kills. Looks like I'll have to take this risk. Shao Tan was still coming up with a plan. But at the end of the tunnel, a familiar shout came from a distance. Long Aomin did not hesitate and yelled, "I'm here! Come on!" Chapter 428. He is the first to expose his location. Passing Rain read from the screen in the conference room. Brother Long is too confident. Laughing Soul added, perhaps it is because he is more familiar with Xiao Tan's fighting style, so he thinks he can win in a direct confrontation. Passing Rain turned to Feng Bujue to ask, if it's you, how do you plan to fight this match? I'll use the string and grenade to set up a more obvious trap. Then, behind this trap, I'll use the military shovel and a second grenade to set up a more concealed trap. While I'm at it, I'll write "What's so serious?" on the wall next to the trap. Feng Bujue replied quickly. After that, I will cut off the tunnel's power or break all the nearby light bulbs. Then we just need to wait. Why do I feel like there is an extra step in the process? Passing Rain finally got into the habit of complaining. All right, let's focus on the match. Laughing Soul interrupted them. Her eyes were still focused on the screen. At that moment, the system split the screen to focus on Wang Tanji and Long Aomin. After Brother Long roared, he immediately stopped and turned his ears to listen. He wanted to use his hearing to capture his opponent's movement. However, other than the echo of his own words, there was no other movement. Xiao Tan's reaction was very calm. He knew where his advantage was and knew what the situation that his opponent was hoping for the most. Therefore, he chose to turn his back on the source of the roar and ran in the opposite direction. Close combat was Long Aomin's forte. His defense was well-rounded, and it was especially effective against agility-based players who used bladed weapons. Normal sword and blade attacks could barely deal any damage to Brother Long. He could use his shield to block or his armor to take the hit. However, facing medium damage skills, he would use defensive skills to block them. Even if his defense was broken, he would not lose too much life points. Other than that, Brother Long had the passive skill of medic, and the attributes of his equipment and apparel leaned toward defense and recovery. As long as his attacker's attack power or speed was lowered, he would have a chance to recover his life point. If his opponent was a fighter class player who used hammers, staffs, or even fists, Brother Dragon would feel some pressure. After all, the opponent's attacks would deal a certain amount of impact damage. However, those who used bladed weapons mainly relied on stabbing. Their strength was generally not strong, and most of their attacks were unable to break through the defense. Therefore, in the normal process of attack and defense, Long Aomin only needed to make sure that there were no openings. As a defender, his stamina consumption was much lower than that of an attacker. The longer the battle dragged on, the more obvious his advantage in terms of physical strength became. The reason why Meng Jingqian lost the match was because he couldn't win the conventional battle for a long time, so he was forced into a passive situation. By the time he realized Brother Dragon's strategy, it was already too late. If he had stopped at that point, his opponent's HP recovery ability was right there, and if he had continued to attack, his own stamina would have been depleted. Caught between a rock and a hard place, Brother Long took the hot pot guy away with him. If the two of them were to meet again, Meng Jingqian would definitely go all out at the start of the battle and launch a fierce attack to end the battle while he was still full of energy. Alas, victory was victory. There were no ifs. Of course, Xiao Tan would not follow in Meng Jingqian's footsteps. From the beginning, he knew Long Aomin's specialty, so his plan was clear: kill him in one shot. He didn't respond to me, and he didn't make any sound. Brother Long stood where he was for about 2 minutes and thought to himself, based on my knowledge, Xiao Tan only has one stealth skill, and he can only use it when he is in a crowd. In this environment, no matter how fast he is, he will be discovered when he gets close to me. He thought about it and speculated, Xiao Tan, even though he is not as crazy as Brother Feng, he is still very clever. With his understanding of me, he should be. Long Aomin soon came to the conclusion that his opponent was moving away from him, and he mumbled to himself, as expected, he didn't act according to my plan. But it doesn't matter. He appeared to be very relaxed. After saying that, he picked a random direction and moved forward. Feng Bujue suddenly made this comment that came out of nowhere. "Oh, there's a finesse to it. What have you noticed this time?" Passing Rain asked. Feng Bujue replied, "About Brother Long's shout earlier." He leaned back in his chair and turned to Passing Rain to explain. "It looks like he exposed his location, but actually, it is a very aggressive tactic." "That's ridiculous, leader." Laughing Soul also did not see the meaning behind that. Feng Bujue said, "Think about it. Brother Long is not afraid of a melee fight, and he knows that Xiao Tan won't be able to one-shot him with a ranged attack. Therefore, even if his location is exposed, he won't be afraid of being one-shot." "Then, wouldn't it be the same if he didn't shout?" Passing Rain asked. "Wrong," Feng Bujue denied. "There is a fundamental difference." He raised his finger to point at Xiao Tan on the screen. "He knows his opponent's location." He pointed at Long Aomin. "But he doesn't know his opponent's location." Laughing Soul said, "Oh, I get it now." She was enlightened. "AF King. I see." Passing Rain also understood. Xiao Tan is actively moving away from his opponent, but Brother Long, since he doesn't know Xiao Tan's location, no matter which direction he moves, it can be seen as him actively searching for his opponent. Sigh. Feng Bujue sighed. "Both of you need my reminder to realize this difference, but the kid himself, I think he's in trouble." "But, the system needs some time to determine AFKing, right?" Laughing Soul said. "Time is one of the factors, and the other two factors are his consciousness and action." Feng Bujue said. "In terms of consciousness, to put it simply, Xiao Tan has to believe that what he is doing will help him defeat his opponent. In that case, even if he burrows into a hole or falls asleep on the train tracks, it won't be considered an AFKing, much less walk in the opposite direction. His action of shaking the elevator in the first round is a good example. Even though it was useless, he was indeed looking for a solution." He paused. If he doesn't have a clear goal, for example, he only knows to stay away from his opponent, but he doesn't know what to do next. At that time, it will depend on his actions. His current action is to run away. Laughing Soul said. Feng Bujue shrugged. "Yes, so we can only hope that he already has a plan in mind." "I have no clue at all," Xiao Tan mumbled as he walked. "I've been walking for 10 minutes already, and I haven't seen the end of the tunnel or figured out a way to deal with Brother Long. Isn't this just a simple escape?" He hugged his head and squatted down. He scratched his head and said, "This will soon be considered an AFKing. Think about it." Xiao Tan mumbled to himself. He stood up and paced back and forth. "One hit kill, one hit kill." He repeated that sentence again and again as he glanced at his skill tab and inventory. "I need to be fast enough and strong enough, and there's only one chance, so I can't miss it. Brother Long's shield throwing skill and chasing skill can stop me from taking a detour, and there's no space for me to roam around in the tunnel. If I fail in one hit, I'll be stuck in a fight." The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. If not for the fact that the video of this match would be broadcasted, he would have curled up into a ball and rolled on the ground. "So, I can only hope that Brother Long is killed by the train," Xiao Tan grumbled. "But from the looks of this tunnel, as long as I stick to the wall, I won't be hit by the train." His prediction was not wrong. Even if the train did come, when the train passed through the tunnel, there was still a distance of several centimeters between the two walls and the carriage. Even if the player stood sideways, as long as their shoulders were less than 1 meter wide, they would not be hit. Furthermore, I can't be sure that the train will come from Brother Long's side. What if it comes from my side? When Xiao Tan thought about that, a thought crossed his mind. As mentioned earlier, even though Xiao Tan was not as good at planning as Feng Bujue, whenever he had a flash of inspiration, he would come up with something amazing. At that moment, probably due to some kind of innate talent, a crazy idea that was similar to a gamble was born in Xiao Tan's mind. I've been running at 60% speed for so long, but I still can't see the exit. Looks like the system doesn't plan to let the players leave this tunnel. At this point, Long Aomin could basically confirm that he had chosen the opposite direction from Xiao Tan. Looks like I've chosen the wrong side. He sighed. Phew. But Xiao Tan should have turned around by now, or else he'll be judged as EFKNG. With that in mind, he turned around. Then, I should turn back as well. The sooner I meet him, the better. Hum. 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 At that moment, the sound of a train came from the far end of the tunnel. Soon, a large locomotive appeared in Long Aomin's sight. Naturally, Brother Long had considered the possibility of a train passing by. Seeing this, he quickly moved to the wall and leaned against it. An old-fashioned steam train. That's quite fast. Brother Long turned to look at the approaching locomotive. Suddenly, his expression changed. In just 2 seconds, Brother Long had 3 different expressions on his face: confusion, shock, and shock. Beep! Long Aomin cursed and added, "This is too much. How did you get up there?" Chapter 429. 3 minutes earlier, at the other end of the tunnel, Xiao Tan stood in the middle of the tracks with his eyes glowing like a torch. He did not do anything substantial, but the system did not deem it as AFK-like. Wang Tongji and Long Aomin could be considered the first batch of players from Thriller Paradise. They knew very well that since the map generated by the system was a tunnel that could not be exited, the train would definitely come. At that moment, Xiao Tan was betting on this train. If he wanted to kill it in one shot, he had to borrow the power of this giant thing that could travel at 200 kilometers per hour. Furthermore, the train had to move from his end to Long Aomin's. If it was the other way around, his plan would not work. It had to be said that Xiao Tan was indeed lucky. If it was Brother Ju, things would have been different. In any case, following the rumbling, the train finally arrived, and there was no problem with its direction. Xiao Tan faced the approaching front of the car and roared to give himself some courage. The train was moving very fast, and in the blink of an eye, it was only 20 meters away. Xiao Tan calculated the time. He raised his right arm, palm facing forward, and used binding teeth. Instantly, the shadow of a beast leaped out from Xiao Tan's palm. There was a roar in the air, and the shadow of the beast enlarged in a second. A giant mouth filled with sharp teeth snapped at the train like it was going to swallow it whole. Even though the fangs did not have a physical form, when they bit into the train, they still caused the train to slow down. At that moment, the train slowed down like it had run into a thick layer of glue. In the next 4 to 5 seconds, the train experienced a short process of going from fast to slow, and then from slow to fast again. On Xiao Tan's side, when binding teeth left his hand, he had already turned around and used Mark of the Winged Hornless Bear to run up the wall. In the few seconds when the train slowed down, he used his maximum speed to run along the wall in the same direction as the train, maintaining a lead of about 3 meters. Then, before the train picked up speed again, he jumped to the front of the train. This action caused him to lose 39% of his life points, but from the result, it was worth it. The front end of this kind of old-fashioned train had a triangular, convex edge, and the cylindrical top edge of the front was easy to grip. Therefore, Xiao Tan used a consumable skill and almost half of his life points to successfully cling to the front of the train. Phew! That scared the hell out of me. After doing that, Xiao Tan still had lingering fear in his heart. Even though he had come up with every step of the plan, when he actually put it into action, his terror points still continued to rise. Especially when he jumped out, his heart almost stopped. It's a train after all. Binding teeth's immobilization effect is indeed greatly reduced. Xiao Tan thought to himself. Actually, before he jumped onto the train, he had already considered the various possibilities after he used the skill. For example, if binding teeth was completely useless, then the next thing he would do after running to the wall would be to stick to the wall and not run along it. Or if the train was immobilized, that would be the best-case scenario, and he would be able to sit on the front of the train. Or if the train was immobilized by the skill and flipped over, it would slide down due to inertia. Then, the wall would be no longer safe, and he would have no choice but to run as fast as he could. Thankfully, the actual result was that the skill created a buffer effect. Even though the difficulty of getting on the train was still high, at least it was a close call. In the conference room, Laughing Soul's heart had also squeezed. Seeing that Xiao Tan was fine, she sighed in relief. That was too reckless. I thought he was going to commit suicide. I think I know what he was going to do, Passing Rain said. It is indeed a very risky strategy, Feng Bujue agreed. But from another perspective, it can be said to be very clever. I can see that as well. He was going to use the impact of the train to activate Shadow Soul Pursuit, right? Laughing Soul said. But there were too many variables involved. What if the train came from the other side of the tunnel? Also, what if the train moved faster than expected? What if the front of the train was flat? What if binding teeth was useless? There was nothing he could do, Feng Bujue said. This was originally a gamble. He had placed the victory of this competition on this. He used an admiring tone to say, if any part of the plan went wrong, he would fail, and every part of the plan could go wrong. To succeed, one needs to have a very strong reaction and luck. Speaking of luck, Brother Ju could not help but be reminded of the unspeakable story between himself and the magical disintegrator. He paused with melancholy in his eyes and continued, it is undeniable that these two are part of a person's ability. The fact that Xiao Tan came up with this idea and took the risk to try it means that he is worthy of this victory. Back in time, inside the tunnel, Long Aomin looked at Xiao Tan, who was leaning against the front of the train, holding the stiletto in his hand, and despair rose in his heart. If I stick to the wall, I will definitely be attacked. He only needs to reach out and use the momentum of the train to slash at me. In these few seconds, many thoughts flashed across Brother Long's mind. If I jump up, I am wearing heavy armor, so I am not that good at jumping. Even if I can knock my head on the ceiling and curl up, he only needs to raise the stiletto and use the momentum of the train to slash at my crotch. His eyes moved quickly to the train tracks. Lie flat in the middle of the tracks, let the train pass over me, then he only needs to lower his weapon to the height of the train and use the momentum of the train to. Long Aomin realized that his various scenarios were not optimistic. At that moment, he was reminded of a famous quote from Mr. Kizaru, "Speed is power." Xiao Tan, who was on the front of the train, naturally saw Brother Long. Perhaps it was out of habit, but when a living creature appeared in his sight, his first reaction was to silently use his finger to carve a large cross on the front of the train and use "draw a cross to curse you." A bad feeling rose in his heart, but Brother Long did not mind it. If he opened the game menu, he should be able to see the special status of curse. It took a long time to describe it, but it really did happen in the blink of an eye. In the end, Long Aomin's solution was to activate his title skill, Berserker's Shield. The name of the skill was the same as the name of the title itself. It was a transformation skill, but its effect and side effect were not as scary as Descent of the War Demon. Under the effect of the Berserker's Shield, Long Aomin could reduce all damage by 30% and double his maximum life point. This skill could only be used once in each scenario. It consumed 700 stamina points and 20% of his maximum stamina points, and it lasted for 3 minutes. In other words, after activating this skill, before the scenario ended, Brother Long's maximum stamina points would drop from 3,700 to 2,960, and it would only recover when he returned to the login lobby. Of course, he did not care that much. To prevent himself from being one-shot, he had to activate all the skills that he could. Other than the title skill, Brother Long also used his other main defensive skill, Ice Shell. It covered the round shield in his hand with a layer of frost. He leaned against the wall and placed the shield before him, preparing to face the attack. Looking at Xiao Tan, he was also betting everything on this. The curse had been cursed, and Shadow Soul Chase had been activated. This skill's power changed according to one's movement speed and impact. At that moment, Brother Long was possessed by Train Man combined with the 10% bonus from the first hit. Only the system knew what kind of result it would cause. It could be said that the two of them had done everything they could. Victory would be decided in this one hit. Chapter 430. When the second round was over, there were 720 participants left in the Battle of the Cocoon. Wang Tongji was one of them. After that match, Brother Long had contacted Xiao Tan to discuss the situation at the time. Long Aomin was indeed a straightforward person, and he was very open-minded after his loss. He did not regret it at all. If anything, he was impressed by Xiao Tan's amazing strategy. He almost clapped his hands to cheer him on. After all, Blade Edge was not a commercial gaming studio, so they did not have a ranking requirement for their members, so it did not matter where Brother Long lost. However, this match did cause quite a lot of discussion on the forums. Since Brother Long had sent Meng Jingchan into the playoffs in the first round, many players viewed him as the dark horse of this competition. However, after just one round, the ID Long Aomin, which had just gained popularity, was revealed to have been eliminated. I told you, Long Aomin won the first round through luck. This kind of opinion popped up like mushrooms after a rain. Actually, 90% of the people who came up with this opinion had not seen Brother Long's matches, not even 2 rounds. They had only read some posts and news, made some conjectures based on the outcome of the matter, and made some fallacies. Of course, there were quite a number of players who had seen the real battle between Wang Tongji and Long Aomin. Most of them were there to see Brother Long, but they did not expect the tunnel battle to end like this, and they did not expect the process to be so dramatic. Xiao Tan completed a classic kill before thousands of viewers. Even though luck played a part in it, as Feng Bujua had said, since he had come up with this idea and dared to do it, then he deserved this victory. However, compared to Brother Long's rise to fame after the first round, the ID Wang Tongji was still lukewarm. It looked like most people still thought he had won through luck. At 1 a.m. on May 21st, the third round started. Like the previous 2 rounds, Xiao Tan waited in the login lobby on time. It was the same familiar system announcement. The third round of the Battle of the Cocoon is about to begin. Your data will be loaded in 30 seconds. Please do not leave the login lobby. 10 seconds before loading. 9, 8, 7, 2, 1. But, after the countdown ended, the opening speech did not come as scheduled. After about 5 seconds of silence, just as Xiao Tan felt that something was wrong, the system voice message rang. A no match has been found. You will be given a bye in this round. Congratulations, you have directly entered the 4th round. Huh. Xiao Tan didn't know what to do after hearing the notification. After a few seconds, he finally reacted. Did someone not line up on time? Obviously, yes. Coincidentally, one of the 720 players who entered the third round of the Battle of the Cocoon did not show up that night. The reason was that his wife was in labor. She was sent to the hospital in the evening, so he didn't come online tonight. If there were an even number of players absent, the system could still complete the pairings until the number of players in the next round became an odd number. But tonight, there was only 1 player left, so 1 player was left unattended. And Xiao Tan was the one who was left unattended. 5 minutes later, when he arrived at Feng Bujue's meeting room and told him about his direct advancement, Brother Ju's comment was, "Your luck. If you could give me 20% of it, I would sell everything I have and buy a plane ticket to Macau tomorrow." In any case, Xiao Tan managed to enter the top 360 without any hiccup. The next day, The news of him being left unattended was spread like wildfire. Many IDs who were obviously part of the internet ghostwriting army started to criticize the Dream Company on various forums. After breaking down these people's arguments, and looking at the core of their argument, to put it bluntly, this is not fair. He should have a certain someone who was eliminated in the playoff round fight him. The winner will advance. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that this was a farce run by some despicable gaming studios. They wanted to give their eliminated players another chance. These studios saw the matter of the players being left unattended as a life-saving straw. They sent out gunmen, claimed to be bystanders, and pretended to be indignant. They spared no effort to create public opinion in an attempt to pressure the gaming company. But they obviously got the wrong person. The Dream Company was not an ordinary gaming company. Doing things their way and letting others laugh and scold them were their motto. The rules had already stated that players could not compete due to off-field factors. It was considered a forfeit, and there was no objection at all. Therefore, the Dream Company completely ignored the ghostwriters. Therefore, after causing a ruckus for an entire day, the angry gunmen focused their attention on Xiao Tan. It could be said that they were venting their anger. In short, Xiao Tan was targeted. If his performance in the fourth round was not bad, they would naturally have nothing to say. However, if he appeared weak, it would definitely become the main excuse for the ghostwriters to attack him after the game. If that happened, if someone was allowed to fight, he would have advanced. The Dream Company would rather let a loser advance than give a capable player a chance. Where is the justice? These kinds of comments would definitely come out. That was something that could be predicted. May 22nd, 1 a.m., the fourth round of Battle of the Cocoon. After the countdown ended, the system announced the opening statement. The cocoon that sleeps 3 times in the dark forest, the softness that wraps around the finger has been tempered 100 times. Download complete. You are currently playing Tournament for the Best, Battle of the Cocoon. This mode does not have a scenario introduction, hidden side quest, or unique world view. Reward for winning the scenario: advance to the top 180. Main quest triggered. Kill your opponent. Xiao Tan was transported to a dark wasteland. The ground was made up of sturdy rocks, and there was not even a blade of grass. Looking around, there was nothing that could be seen. A full moon hung in the sky. 2 figures stood proudly in the air. A familiar face appeared in Wang Tongji's sight. Without the confirmation from the game menu, Xiao Tan recognized the man. 7 kills. 7 kills also recognized the man in the assassin's outfit. They were not going to play any tricks on this map. Both of them knew that. 7 kills had a good relationship with Brother Long, and this was not the first time he had met Xiao Tan. Therefore, it was impossible to expect him to underestimate his opponent. The moon stretched for thousands of miles, and the murderous intent filled the air. The winner would advance, and the loser would be eliminated. There was no turning back, and no one would back down. Phew. This kind of map, this kind of opponent. I don't think I'm going to survive this. Xiao Tan adjusted his breathing and thought to himself. But... He lowered his head to look at his hands. Why am I shaking with excitement? Is it because deep inside my heart, I yearn for this kind of battle? Chapter 431. The first thing Xiao Tan did was curse. This had become his second nature. As long as there was a living creature before him and the skill was not on cooldown, he would use it. 7 kills, who was 50 meters away from Xiao Tan, was naturally affected. Without any warning, 7 kills felt his heart squeeze, and his shoulders sank. He opened the game menu and saw the word curse on the status bar. When we fought last time, he didn't use this skill, 7 kills said darkly. Is this a new skill that he learned recently? He had no idea what the effect of this curse was, so he did not dare let his guard down. Therefore, 7 kills chose to stand where he was and observe. He wanted to see what kind of effect this curse would have other than psychological pressure. What will it be? Will it weaken one of my attributes? Or will it cause damage after a certain amount of time? From 7 Kills' perspective, he naturally hoped it was the former. If that was the case, he was right to drag things out. This was because curses that weakened attributes would not last for too long, they would disappear soon. Every second that he delayed meant that the duration of the curse would decrease by 1 second. At that moment, on Xiao Tan's side, something unexpected happened. The cross to curse you earlier had raised his sorcery mastery to level C. As the saying goes, many a little makes a mickle. He had used this sorcery skill in many scenarios over the past few days, and finally, he had achieved his initial goal. This is fate. Xiao Tan knew that it would be difficult for him to win against 7 Kills with his own ability. But now that he had an extra skill that could only be learned by level B plus C, this might give him a chance to win. Are you going to make your move? 7 Kills saw Xiao Tan reach his hand into his inventory and thought that he was going to take out some kind of item to attack, but to his surprise, Xiao Tan took out a paper book and it looked old and tattered. What is this? Guiyuan's Secret Manual. This refers to the version in the movie The New Red Crane Needle. The manual itself is a consumable item. Consuming it can cure all illnesses and increase one's power? 7 Kills made a very unreliable guess in his heart. Xiao Tan took out the Heaven and Earth Inversion Mantra and confirmed the learning requirements. Fighting Mastery B, Spirit Mastery C, level 30 and above. Next he chose to study. 7 Kills could clearly see that the book in his opponent's hand had suddenly turned into white light and disappeared. He immediately thought to himself, oh, was it really a consumable? Could it be a skill? He thought to himself, but why would he only learn it after entering the scenario? Could it be some kind of skill that activates automatically after learning it and lasts for the duration of the scenario? Obviously, he would not be able to guess the exact situation on Xiao Tan's side. Speaking of which, after Xiao Tan learned the skill, he looked at the label in the skill bar and muttered, although I've learned it, what is the effect of this thing? Indeed, the description of the effects of the Heaven and Earth Inversion Divine Art was complete nonsense. Effect. Heaven and Earth Inversion, Heaven and Earth Inversion. No cooldown. The remark is quite mysterious. What does it mean by overturning the nature of human interaction with the outside world? Xiao Tan thought to himself, but since I've already learned it, I might as well try it out. After all, it only consumes 2% of my stamina points. At that moment, 7 Kills, who was far away, was getting impatient. He thought to himself, TSK, this strange curse refuses to disappear. I have no idea what this kid is up to. He stared at Xiao Tan. Humph. It is clear that I am stronger than him, but a curse has delayed me for so long. If this is a psychological tactic, then I've already fallen for it. With that in mind, 7 Kills could not help but be angered. He growled, do you really think I'll wait for you like this? He leaped forward like a tiger released from its cage. His right fist was held at his waist as he charged forward. However, at that moment, something shocking happened. Even though this battle was not broadcasted on the main screen, it was still a popular battle. The number of viewers was in the tens of thousands. Before the audience of tens of thousands, Xiao Tan did something that perhaps no one in the entire game had been able to do. He flew into the air. This was not the walking on air like Jeppo, and it was not the jumping on the ground. Instead, he shot up like a rocket into the sky, and there was no sign of him exerting force on any part of his body. What the F***ck? 7 Kills' eyes reflected the image of a man flying into the sky. He watched as the man flew into the sky in a straight line, and he could not help but gasp. He's ascended to immortality. At the same time, in a meeting room of Blade, is this some kind of joke? Long Aomin jumped up from his chair and stared at the screen on the table. He could not believe his eyes. That's impossible. The other Blade members around the table also widened their eyes and complained, Brother Long, are you sure he's weaker than you? On the other hand, in the login lobby of VIP player Shiva, what the? Out of curiosity, I wanted to see how the fight between 7 Kills and the guy from Underworld Frontline would turn out, and I ended up seeing something incredible. Shiva stood before the screen and mumbled to himself, if he has that power, he only needs to grab the opponent, fly into the sky, and then let go. With that in mind, he could not help but say, speaking of which, if he enters the top 100, there's a chance that we'll meet. If he uses this skill on me, what should I do? Weightless contact can't be used on myself. He was already considering the various scenarios that might happen during the Battle of the Butterfly. Inside the meeting room of Underworld Frontline, I know you're listening. I can feel it. Fong Bujue stood at the corner of the room and mumbled, I understand you. You're afraid of us, afraid of change. I don't know what the future will hold, and I don't know how everything will end, but I know how to start. I want to hang up this call and let everyone see the real world. A world without you, a world without rules and boundaries, a world filled with endless possibilities. Where you go in the future, the choice is yours. After he finished this line from the Matrix, he lifted his head 45 degrees to look at the ceiling and jumped on the spot. How come I can't fly? Laughing Soul, who sat at the table, shook her head. Leader, please have some self-respect. Even though there are no outsiders here, sigh. Passing Rain sighed deeply. If this happened half a month ago, I would have cut off all ties with you. Fong Bujue was unfazed. He returned to the table with a serious expression. He placed his hands on the table and leaned forward to look at the flying Xiao Tan on the screen. I get it now. His existence is the sum of the few inequalities in the game program. He is the final form of the abnormal program. No matter how hard the system tries, it can't be removed through the formula. There is no guarantee of mathematical precision and harmony. He took a deep breath. He is the savior. Passing Rain walked behind Brother Ju and used both of her hands to pull at the corner of Brother Ju's lips and eyes, turning his face into a funny ghost face. The guards didn't come to stop me, Passing Rain said darkly. Looks like even the system supports me. Okay. I'll stop. Fong Bujue shrugged. Passing Rain pulled her hands back and wiped the saliva off her fingertips on Fong Bujue's shirt. Back to the topic. Fong Bujue adjusted his expression and sat down. Ignoring the possibility that Xiao Tan is the savior, this can only be the mantra of heaven and earth inversion, right? Laughing Soul said, I already knew that. Do you really think people will believe you even if you keep mumbling? In the scenario on the desert, at that moment, probably only Xiao Tan himself knew that he was not flying, he was falling. So, this is the so-called heaven and earth inversion, heaven and earth inversion. Xiao Tan flew upward at an extremely fast speed, and he mumbled to himself, to put it simply, I'm reversing the effect of gravity on me, right? He lowered his head to look at the ground that was getting further and further away from him. If I use it one more time, I'll be back, right? He paused. What am I doing? This is a suicidal skill. Either I'll be burned to death in the atmosphere or I'll fall to my death, right? Of course, he was not completely helpless. As long as he turned the gravity back, and when he was close to the ground, he would turn it twice, and the accumulated momentum would be neutralized. But going up and down, other than wasting his stamina points, did not seem to do anything else. Since I'm already in the sky, why don't I? Xiao Tan suddenly had an idea. If he had bought an ultimate skill called Buddha's Palm from an old beggar when he was young, the thought that appeared in his mind would be, I believe I've learned a skill that allows me to fall from the sky. Unfortunately, there was no such setting. Xiao Tan's idea was just Shadow Soul Chase. He wanted to use the momentum of falling from the sky to use the ultimate skill on 7 kills. After coming up with the plan, he made up his mind and used the mantra of heaven and earth inversion again. The reversal of gravity was very sudden, but it did not cause any damage to Xiao Tan. He was like a ping-pong ball that bounced off a racket and he was instantly turned back. Moments later, 7 kills, who was standing on the ground, finally saw Xiao Tan's figure again. I thought this kid was going to fly out of Earth. 7 kills said casually. However, a few seconds later, as he saw the approaching opponent, his expression changed. Wait a minute. What is he doing? Sky Cross Punch? Chapter 432. 7 kills had a feeling that Xiao Tan's skill was not to be underestimated, so he was more focused than he had ever been. He had made the decision not to face it head-on. If he could avoid it, he would. If he could not, he would try his best to neutralize it. However, wait a minute. He doesn't seem to be coming for me. As the distance between him and the ground became smaller, 7 kills realized. Xiao Tan was still several dozen meters away from him, so there was no need for him to evade. On the other hand, Xiao Tan had just realized this problem as well. Mantra of heaven and earth inversion only reversed the effect of gravity on the user. It did not really make him fly. To put it bluntly, he was falling straight down. The change in wind direction and posture might cause the coordinates of his fall to change, but with these two things, he would not be able to move horizontally or diagonally, and he would not be able to land accurately on a target. This is different from what I expected. Xiao Tan immediately did a few breaststroke movements in the air, as if he was trying to use this method to swim above 7 kills, but it was useless. Furthermore, even if he was falling in a straight line toward 7 kills, as long as the latter moved several meters ahead of him, he would be fine. In the end, Xiao Tan had no choice but to give up the attack. When he was about 10 meters above the ground, he activated the mantra twice. After reversing gravity twice, he landed safely. 7 kills stood several dozen meters away and looked at Xiao Tan with confusion. He thought to himself, what is this kid doing? What is the point of flying so high and then landing? It can't be to show off to me. By the way, why hasn't the curse ended yet? What is this thing? This is such a bummer. Xiao Tan stood there and thought to himself, unless the scenario is inside a chimney, the chance of hitting someone with this godly skill is very low. It needs to be combined with a tracking skill or a sprinting skill. He felt quite annoyed. If the description of this skill was not so mysterious, I would have learned the related skills a long time ago. What is the point of experimenting with the effect of this skill? Hey, Brother Wang, have you had enough fun? 7 kills said. Are you trying to show me the results of your cultivation over the past 2 weeks? Haha. Xiao Tan laughed bitterly. As you can see, it's nothing special. Is that so? 7 kills' expression changed slightly. That's really disappointing. If we're talking about disappointment, I'm much more disappointed than you right now. Xiao Tan replied weakly. Xiao Tan was obviously referring to the psychological gap brought to him by the heaven and earth inversion magic technique. After all, it was a skill that he had worked so hard to learn. He had thought that its effects would be amazing, but the actual situation was very different from what he had imagined. But as the saying goes, the speaker has no intention, but the listener has the heart. When these words fell into 7 kills' ears, combined with Xiao Tan's various performances so far, as well as his tone and demeanor when he spoke, it had a different meaning. Oh? Ha. Ha 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 ha. 7 kills laughed. Looks like you're really confident. You think that I'm no longer your opponent? Xiao Tan did not react for a moment. His, was hesitation. But to 7 kills and the tens of thousands of spectators, it was confirmation. Okay. Brother Wang, please enlighten me. After 7 kills said that, his body disappeared in an instant. In that second, Xiao Tan's battle instincts told him two things. 1. His opponent was behind him. 2. He had to use a doppelganger to avoid this attack. Whoosh! 7 kills' fist punched forward and penetrated the back of the person in front of him. However, there was no explosion of flesh and bone, nor was there any blood. His fist seemed to have penetrated the opponent's body, but in fact it hit an illusion. The same move is useless against me. Xiao Tan's voice suddenly sounded behind 7 kills. Indeed, what 7 kills used was the skill that he had used to kill Xiao Tan in the preliminaries, Shadow Step and Shocking Bone-Piercing Fist. He had used this chain to kill many players before, and it was a tried and tested skill. Honestly speaking, even if his opponent knew what he was going to do, it would be hard for him to defend against it. First, Shocking Bone-Piercing Fist was a skill that required one to block from the front. If one was hit from behind by this skill, it would be impossible for one's defense not to be broken. 4 players like Xiao Tan, who had weaker defense, after their defense was broken, their torso would be directly punched through by the fist. Shadow Step was a teleportation skill. It allowed 7 kills to appear behind an enemy within 20 meters. It consumed 100 sorcery points, and it had a cooldown of half an hour. These two skills were the classic combination of skills. When used together, there would be an effect of 1 plus 1 greater than 2. However, Xiao Tan had successfully nullified this chain. The moment 7 kills used Shadow Step, Xiao Tan also used Wind Stops Dust, and at the same time, he did a backflip in the air. After 7 kills teleported, the scene in front of him would suddenly change. Based on his experience, the first thing that entered his sight would undoubtedly be his opponent's back. Therefore, he punched out without hesitation. At this moment, Xiao Tan was already behind him. In that instant, the hidden blade shot out and went for the back of his neck. However, 7 kills was not hit. It was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. When his punch missed, 7 kills leaned forward and lowered his head, barely dodging the hidden blade. Humph! Are you a Saint Seiya? 7 kills laughed coldly and complained about Xiao Tan's word. The reason he was so calm was because he knew from the start that Xiao Tan would not fall for the same trick twice. Although 7 kills could not explain why he had this thought, he had this feeling. This was intuition, an unfounded intuition. He did not know what method his opponent would use to nullify his chain, but he knew that his opponent would be able to nullify it. This kind of trust in one's opponent was a very strange thing, but it was real. Sometimes, it was even more reliable than the trust in one's companions. I'll send you on your way. In the blink of an eye, 7 kills spat out a threat. He turned around and swung his leg like a scorpion swinging its tail. However, he did not succeed this time. Xiao Tan used a very simple method to seal his kick. That's right. I am a Saint Seiya. As Xiao Tan spoke, his hands had already passed through 7 kills' armpits. He clenched his fists and held 7 kills in front of him. What? This position? Could it be the legendary? 7 kills was shocked. Lu Shan's mighty Dragon Lord? Ha 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 ha! Xiao Tan guffawed. The only way to seal a close combat fighter, other than to stay away, is to stick close to them. You have no chance to deal any fatal damage to me. As he spoke, he activated the mantra of heaven and earth inversion. He wanted to bring his opponent into the sky and then let go. However, he did not expect that, after the skill was activated, the two did not fly into the sky but stopped where they were. Even though 7 kills could feel a force pulling him up, the force was not strong enough to lift him up. F***CK. He's heavier than me. Xiao Tan realized this serious problem. Earlier, Shiva had come up with this strategy, but the premise of this strategy was that Xiao Tan could really fly. However, that wasn't the case in reality. The divine art could only reverse the player's communication with the outside world. The players, refers to the player's entire body, including the player's clothing, equipment, and so on, but it wouldn't affect the others that the player came into contact with. Thus, Shao Tan's plan B fell through. Your flying skill. Even though it's fast, it doesn't seem to carry much weight. 7 Kills sneered and slowly turned around. He was shocked by Shao Tan's appearance. F***CK. Why is your hair standing up? And your face looks like it's filled with blood. Actually, I'm a scion. Shao Tan tried to bluff to hide his embarrassment. Humph. Who are you trying to fool? 7 Kills snorted. If you were a scion, you would have turned into a gorilla under the full moon. At that moment, all the spectators were complaining. You've got the main point wrong. However, Shao Tan replied, Humph. It's obvious that I didn't transform because I don't have a tail. It's obviously bullsh*t, but he even considered such details. Ha! Nonsense. 7 Kills did not want to waste any more time with him. With a shout, he attacked. He had a military background, so he had plenty of ways to break free from a grab from behind. 7 Kills bent his legs slightly, lowered his body's center of gravity, and used his right leg to sweep backward. Unexpectedly, this kick actually missed the target. Shao Tan was still in the state of reverse gravity. He retracted his legs and dodged the attack. From a spectator's point of view, Shao Tan was floating and squatting. His arms were still suppressing the movements of 7 Kills' hands. Ridiculous! 7 Kills could not bring his hands together in front of his chest, but he could still extend them upward. He immediately raised his arms and grabbed backward with his palms, trying to grab Shao Tan's head. Unexpectedly, Shao Tan suddenly changed his move. He retracted his hands and quickly grabbed 7 Kills' forearms. Then, he used a divine technique to reverse gravity again and pressed his knees against 7 Kills' shoulders. Between the retraction and release, 7 Kills' arms were pulled upward, and his shoulders were pressed down by his entire body weight. The bones from his shoulder blade to his elbow joint were in danger of dislocating. He was a player who used his fists as his main weapon. If both his arms were crippled at the same time, he would be doomed. It's getting more and more interesting. 7 Kills gritted his teeth and increased the strength of his arms. He was confident that the strength of his arms was stronger than that of Shao Tan's entire body. That was the truth, so Shao Tan did not intend to compete with him. Instead, he suddenly let go and stabbed 7 Kills' temple with his hidden blade. Chapter 433. Ping. 7 Kills pulled his hand back just in time. Under the protection of the glove, his hand caught the hidden blade. Stop fooling around. 7 Kills shot a cold glare at him like he was announcing that he was going to get serious. Shao Tan pulled on his wrist and snapped the hidden blade in half. He broke free from his opponent's control and slashed with his claws. Bang! This was the sound of a fist hitting flesh. However, it sounded more like a moving car had hit a cow. Shao Tan had just raised his hand when 7 Kills' fist landed on his chest. The punch arrived first, and it was as fast as lightning. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Wang Tongji's mouth, and his body flew backward. At that moment, everyone who was watching the match was silent. They held their breath and looked at the screen, thinking back to that horrifying punch. 7 Kills' punch was not a skill. He had only activated his Soul's Eye, Ultimate Punch. The effect of this Soul's Eye was simple and direct. It allowed him to throw out the strongest punch that he could. It could be seen as a weakened version of Passing Rain's extreme efficiency. Of course, the weaker the effect, the lower the consumption. After 7 Kills activated Ultimate Punch, his mental power consumption was naturally not as high as Passing Rain's. A gust of evening wind blew across the wilderness. Shao Tan fell to the ground. He still had 36% of his life points left. His broken ribs cut through his organs, and he was inflicted with the bleeding effect that could not be removed with bandages. That strike from before had practically shattered his chances of victory. The moment he was hit, Xiao Tan's breathing and blood froze like ice. In his eyes, at that moment, time seemed to have stopped. He didn't even feel any pain. He only felt the scenery in his line of sight turn sluggish, and then, he floated backwards. When he came back to his senses, he had already fallen to the ground. Only at this moment did the pain that spread throughout his whole body surge up and wave. Fear was so familiar. He had experienced it before. That was a long time ago. He had also fallen to the ground like this, helplessly watching a tall shadow walk toward him. The feeling of déjà vu was so blurry but so clear. 10 years ago, city. In an alley, 4 hooligans in their 20s were ganging up on a junior high school student who was much smaller than them. In the corner of the dead end, there was another boy in a junior high school uniform curled up. It was a slightly chubby child with a face full of freckles. His expression was filled with fear and cowardice. Even though he knew that the violence in front of him was caused by him, he did not dare to say a word. "Tsk, it seems like there's no reaction anymore," one of the thugs said. Another person continued, "You're just a kid in junior high school. How dare you meddle in my business?" The youth who had been beaten up was lying on his side on the ground, unable to move. However, he had not completely fainted. Seeing this, the 4 men stopped punching and kicking and took out cigarettes to light. "Hey, fatty." One of the thugs turned to the boy in the corner and asked, "Do you know him?" "I don't know him," Fatty replied timidly. "Ha!" Hearing this, the man kicked the young man on the ground again. Motherf ** cur. Was there something wrong with his brain? Did he think that he was a hero? Ha ha. Phew. His companion next to him blew out a cigarette and said, "I've only heard of heroes saving beauties. I've never seen a hero saving a pig." With this remark, the 4 men burst into laughter. A few seconds later, one of them spat on the ground and stepped on the head of the young man on the ground. "Kid, you've got guts. You actually dared to come over." He pointed at the fatty in the corner with the cigarette in his hand. "That kid volunteered to be our ATM. What the **ck does it have to do with you?" It turned out that the beaten young man saw the 4 thugs extorting money and tried to stop them. "Yo, wait a minute, I just found out. This kid's shoes are branded." One of them said, "This costs more than $1,000 a pair. Let me see, it can't be fake, right?" Another person said, Doesn't look like it." That person said, "Look at this kid. He's fair and clean. Other than his uniform, everything else on him is branded." He paused for a moment and sneered, "Maybe he's the son of a rich family? Oh, a rich second generation?" Another person said, This young master, you must think you're very noble, right?" One of the thugs squatted down and grabbed the young man's hair. "I despise hypocritical dogs like you the most." He got up and walked a few steps and picked up a rusty iron pipe. "Hey, don't kill him." Even his companion was a little panicked. After all, the young man was beaten to the point of shock. If they hit him with a hard object, something bad might happen. Don't worry." That thug picked up the iron pipe and walked toward the young man. He sneered, "Mr. Perfect, you like to be a hero and be in the limelight, right? I'll ruin your face today so that you won't be handsome in the future." As he said that, he raised the iron pipe. 5 minutes later, Feng Bujue, wearing the same uniform as Wang Tongji, appeared at the entrance of the alley. He was still muttering, I was left to copy books again. Xiao Tan should have already gone back by himself." As he mumbled to himself, his eyes accidentally wandered down the alley. This one glance almost caused the blood in Feng Bujue's body to flow backward. He saw his best friend Wang Tongji, holding an iron pipe and whipping an adult's head. That adult was lying on the ground, his right leg was spasming and twitching, but he didn't make any sound. Perhaps he couldn't make any sound. In the alley, there were 3 other adults lying on the ground. Their faces were all covered in blood, and they were lying motionless on the ground. Their limbs were all strangely bent. It was obvious that they were all broken. Hey! Hey! Feng Bujue shouted as he ran forward. Xiao Tan heard him and raised his head to look at his brother Ju. Feng Bujue still couldn't forget that scene. It was an expression that he had never seen on Wang Tongji's face before. That face was calm and dejected, as if he had seen through the world of mortals. This was not an expression that a young man should have. The blood that splattered on his face hadn't dried yet, but he didn't care, and without any mercy, he continued to swing the iron pipe at a defenseless person's head again and again. Feng Bujue clearly saw that in Wang Tongji's pupils there was a strange red glow. I didn't expect you to force me to use this move. 7 Kills walked toward Xiao Tan. This is a trump card that I prepared for the Battle of the Butterfly. He sighed. It's praiseworthy. But I still have to say, in terms of fighting, I don't think I'll lose to anyone, so I'm sorry. He raised his arm and swung a punch at Xiao Tan, who was lying on the ground. But this punch also hit nothing. 7 Kills was surprised. Can you still move? He raised his head to look for his opponent. Or should I say, you haven't given up yet? Ha ha. Cold laugh, a strange cold laugh. You don't think you'll lose to anyone in terms of fighting? Xiao Tan's tone changed. It became exceptionally arrogant. You. Chapter 434. At the same time, in the sky above the desert, 2 figures floated. Naturally, the players could not see the high-dimensional creatures in the sky, and the system's camera could not capture them either. Can you explain the situation in front of you, Mr. Referee? War looked down at the 2 people at his feet and said in his deep voice. Simon, who floated next to him, did not answer but moved his eyes to War. Why that look? Do you want to fight me? War's expression shifted slightly. What do you want me to explain? Simon finally spoke, and this allowed War to sigh in relief. Of course, it is the change that is happening to Wang Tongji. Simon's voice was still as cold as a blade. Who knows, some kind of restriction has been broken, so you're giving me a bunch of nonsense. Humph. Fine, I don't care what happened to him. Let's just talk about it, War said. Based on the rules of the bet, the direct descendants of the Wang family and the Gu family are not allowed to bet on them. In other words, they are outsiders. But 7 Kills, he is. Seeing that your chess piece is about to be killed by an outsider, you came to complain to the judge. Simon interrupted. If you are unwilling to accept it, War said, I can do it on your behalf. Heh. Simon laughed. He rarely laughed, so this was not a good sign. Since the beginning of this bet, I have killed many B***stars in the name of the referee, from the angels to the demons at the crossroads. He paused for a second. Do you want to be the first sacrifice under the banner of the Parliament? War was silent for a few seconds like he was weighing something. Then he said, Watch your words, demon. I am not your subordinate. There was a strange rhythm to his voice, like there was something else that was speaking inside the human shell. I am the source of your warlike nature. No matter how strong you are, you will not be able to kill a knight. Do you know how many existences that call themselves immortal I have killed so far? Simon replied calmly. Of course I know, you are the resting symbol of eternity, the crusher of life, War said. But I stand by my point. You can keep your point of view, Simon said. As long as you don't cross the line. You mean, you want me to watch this outsider eliminate 7 kills? Simon exhaled and looked down again. Misfortune may be a blessing in disguise. War was slightly taken aback. Could there be something in the finals? Risks and benefits are proportional, Simon interrupted again. The tournament for the best isn't as simple as you think. That's strange. What's with that arrogant and battle-thirsty expression? 7 Kills looked at Xiao Tan, who was a few meters away, and thought to himself, Brother Wang doesn't seem like such a person. Internal bleeding, huh? Xiao Tan mumbled to himself. My life points dropped to 29% in the blink of an eye. He straightened up, picked up the knife, and said coldly, "I'll finish you in 1 minute." 7 Kills laughed when he heard that and replied, "I really have no idea where your confidence comes from. If you really can do it, then give it a try." Xiao Tan did not say anything else. He stepped on the ground and leaped into the air. He drew a parabola in the air and charged at his opponent. My speed is only slightly slower than his, but my strength is much greater than his. 7 Kills analyzed the situation. With Soul's Eye, I can increase the speed and power of my punches by at least 3 times. Other than that, I have far more combat experience and fighting skills than he does. He calmed down. There can't be any other variables. He's just bluffing. 7 Kills looked at Xiao Tan, who was leaping at him, and growled, "Humph! This kind of normal lunge is no different from a sandbag swinging at me." He raised his fist and punched mercilessly. At that moment, Xiao Tan's descending body suddenly changed direction and leaped upward. 7 Kills scoffed. "Do you think I won't be able to hit you like that?" His punch suddenly changed from a straight punch to an uppercut. Even though his punch was unable to touch Xiao Tan, the punch shot upward like an invisible cannon. However, the punch hit another illusion. In that second, the shadow in the air split into 2. The illusion flew upward while the real body flew downward. Xiao Tan used 3 skills in 2 seconds. Using the combination of doppelganger and the mantra, he created a very dangerous attack. With a flash, the knife lashed out. 7 Kills' reaction was shockingly fast. He raised his right forearm to block the stiletto that was aimed at his neck. With a clang, there was a flash of fire. Then came the sound of bone breaking. How is this possible? 7 Kills' steel gauntlet was not broken, but the powerful force from the chop had broken his forearm. What is this power? 7 Kills was shocked. He thought to himself, his ribs must have been broken already. A normal attack can't be stronger than before. This must be a skill. Every skill has a cooldown time and energy consumption. This kind of heavy attack cannot be repeated. Clang, 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 Xiao Tan moved his hands and started to attack again. The 2 blades crossed and danced, creating many illusions and layers of light. His technique at this moment was absolutely amazing. As the cold blade rose and slashed, it was as if there were 2 assassins, one with a military knife in his hand and the other with a claw blade on his wrist, attacking from both sides. Qi Sha turned pale with fright. Ignoring the fact that his right arm was broken, he could only endure the pain and throw out 2 punches, blocking and retreating. As the 2 weapons clashed, there were bursts of fighting spirit. In less than 10 seconds, 7 Kills was already in danger. He was shocked. What is this? This is no longer a fighting technique. Is this the legendary 2-handed fighting technique? And this sudden increase in strength is not decreasing at all? Xiao Tan, on the other hand, had a blank expression on his face, like he was doing something very easy and normal. Seeing that his opponent was losing, he leaned his body forward and took half a step forward. His left hand gathered the whirlwind blade and his right hand slashed horizontally. They were a combination of skills, and it was a deadly move. At this point in the fight, 7 Kills had also gathered his strength. He gave up on defending and leaped into the air. His spinning figure stirred up a turbulent wind. He used his fists to attack. He exhausted all his stamina and used both hands to perform the killer move, Storm Wave Break. Xiao Tan, on the other hand, used a strange movement. He leaned back and stepped on the rock. Like a sparrowhawk, he used reverse spinning slash and shadow soul chase at the same time. When the 2 extreme moves collided, the wind and clouds were immediately blown away. The formless energy that spread out in all directions was vast and mighty. It rumbled and rumbled like a frenzied storm, causing numerous cracks to appear on the surrounding rock. Several seconds later, the dust settled, and the sound of fighting died down. Only the dripping of blood could be heard. 7 Kills knelt on one knee, and his body was covered in blood. He gritted his teeth and tried to stand up, but when he tried to push himself up, the wounds on his body burst open, and blood mist filled the air. Looking from above, it looked like a blood-red flower blooming in the wasteland. Intense pain surged through Chi-Sha's heart. Soon, he lost his last bit of strength. His spirit, chi, and soul had all dissipated. The result was clear. At that moment, Shao Tan was standing before his opponent. When 7 Kills' blood splashed on his face, his expression did not change. Since his awakening, other than the loss of life points due to internal bleeding, he had not suffered any damage from his opponent. When he exchanged blows with 7 Kills, each of his attacks was faster, stronger, and more accurate. The remaining power of the blades in his hands was enough to break 7 Kills' tendons and cut his bones, and 7 Kills' attacks were either deflected or scattered. See, it's less than a minute. Shao Tan put away his blades and said the last line of the battle. Just as he finished speaking, 7 Kills turned into white light and disappeared. At that moment, everyone who was watching the live stream was stunned. Only one person was still staring with his dead fish eyes. He mumbled, "Looks like something very troublesome has happened." Chapter 435. Shao Tan, who had won, immediately logged off after being teleported out of the scenario. Passing Rain and Laughing Soul naturally thought that Shao Tan's behavior was rather strange. However, Feng Bujue, who knew a thing or two about the situation, said in a firm tone, "I know what I'm doing. I'll log off to deal with it now. Tomorrow I'll give you a detailed explanation." Then, Brother Ju returned to the login lobby and chose Log Off and Wake Up. Of course, after something like that happened, Passing Rain and Laughing Soul did not have the mood to continue playing. They logged off to rest as well. 2 minutes later, in the real world, Feng Bujue's home. The gaming hub's cover was pulled open, and Brother Ju sat up. He scratched the messy hair on his head and climbed out of the gaming pod. Phew! Should I make a phone call? He hesitated for a second. No. Let's just go to his house. It's better to talk to him face to face. Brother Ju mumbled to himself and prepared to change. You're not allowed to go anywhere. A voice suddenly rang out. At that moment, Feng Bujue's first reaction was, a burglar had broken into his house. At that moment, all the lights in the room were off, and only a few parts of the gaming hub were shining. Feng Bujue could not see where the person was, but this was his home. Based on his hearing, he knew that the person was sitting on the sofa. Feng Bujue did not hesitate and shot out like an arrow. He lowered his body and rushed toward the kitchen. I don't think it's a good idea to go get a knife. The person on the sofa laughed wickedly. When Feng Bujue heard that sinister laugh, his body froze. His brain turned quickly, and in a second, he remembered where he had heard this voice before. You are. Brother Ju turned his head. That game manager? Bah. Woody snapped his fingers, and the lights in the living room came on. I've never admitted that I'm the game manager. Woody laughed. That is just your speculation, and it's wrong. Feng Bujue looked at the four-eyed man in the suit and was silent for 2 seconds before asking, How did you get in? What do you want? Interesting. Woody laughed. You didn't ask me how I got your address but directly asked me how I got in. This means that you already have a theory about how I got your information. Humph. I've never expected the game companies to respect their users' privacy, as they promised. Feng Bujue said. Even if the information is controlled by the photon computer, the personal information that I filled in on the forum was backed up by the Dream Company, right? Yes, I know that you don't trust any third-party platform, including trading websites, delivery companies, hotel chains, telecommunications, and even government agencies. Woody continued. But please believe me, the Dream Company will definitely respect the privacy of the players. Your information will not be leaked through us. Oh. Then I want to ask, how did you find my house? When Feng Bujue said this, he had already walked to the sofa. The answer is in your mind. Woody pushed his glasses up. Think about what I told you last time. You don't need to tell me about the images and sounds that exist in your memory. I've digested them a minute ago. This sentence flashed across Feng Bujue's mind. He laughed coldly. Humph. You're trying to say that you can read other people's memories? You don't believe me? Woody said. If I can't, then may I ask, how did I know that Wang Tongji killed someone 10 years ago? Feng Bujue's expression changed suddenly. Countless hypotheses flew through his mind. Your mind is very fast, but it's still not out of the ordinary. Woody said. If you can acknowledge the existence of supernatural forces, our conversation will go much smoother. He tilted his head and laughed again. In that case, the question of how did this four-eyed man turn on the light can be temporarily removed from your thinking queue. I understand. Your company's gaming cabin can completely steal the player's memory information. Feng Bujue was still using the standard reasoning of common sense to make his deduction. You still haven't given up on using science to explain it? Woody turned his head. Then, Arthas, how about you come over and say something? This kind of silly name given by a silly young man. Only a silly boss like you would use it. Arthas walked over from the corner of the room. It was really talking, and it was actually a young woman's voice. Feng Bujue's mind temporarily short-circuited for 2 seconds. He looked at Woody again. Ventriloquism. I can't make my voice that sharp, Woody said. Arthas jumped onto the sofa, climbed to the edge of the backrest and lay down. I know you're going to deduce that I have a microphone or something on me. It paused for a moment. But if you dare to take the opportunity to touch anything other than my head, I'll tear you into pieces. You're a male cat. A male cat. Feng Bujue really went crazy this time. No. This is not right, Humph. This is most likely a prank from the TV station. The light must have been tampered with. The cat's body or the collar is hiding. Pust, Woody's finger gently moved in the air. In the next second, one of Feng Bujue's legs was neatly cut off from the thigh. With a thump, Brother Ju's leg fell to the ground, and the man himself was stunned for 2 seconds with a face as white as ash. Then he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Don't worry, this is called dimensional cutting. Look, you're not bleeding at all and you don't feel any pain. Woody laughed. Then, how do you explain this? Magic? Hypnosis? Or did you accidentally consume a large amount of marijuana? Feng Bujue raised his head and looked at his severed leg. He actually saw a complete cross-section. Marrow, bones, blood vessels, muscles, fat, skin. Those things were still moving, and there was no blood flowing out from the cross-section. The same thing happened to the other half of his thigh. Do you want to study it for a while longer? Or do you want me to reattach your leg immediately? Woody asked. Reattach it. Feng Bujue calmed down. Woody snapped his fingers, and Brother Ju's severed leg flew back to its owner's body. Even his torn pajama pants were restored to its original state. Sit down and talk. Woody gestured for him to sit. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and stared at Woody. He slowly walked to the opposite side and sat down. So, vampires, zombies, ghosts, Buddha, these are all real? Why do the 4 items you mentioned feel so out of place? Arthas complained. Some of them are real. Woody replied. And some, are made up by you humans. Oh. Feng Bujue's mind was a little confused. Then, I remember you said, you came from hell? Yes. Woody replied. You also said. Feng Bujue tried hard to recall every word he said the last time they met. Where you come from is where I will go. What? Do you think you can go to heaven after you die? Woody asked. That's not it. Feng Bujue said. It's just, I want to confirm that I didn't go there recently, right? You're worried about the shadow in your mind, aren't you? Woody laughed. Hee, haven't you noticed? When I was in the same room with you, you already regained your fear. Hearing that, Feng Bujue's face paled. He suddenly had a thought, a scary speculation. He looked up at Woody and asked in a low voice, "Did you do something to my brain?" Yes or no, hee. Woody mumbled in an ambiguous tone. Okay, I know you have a lot of questions. He paused for a second. But I might not answer, hee. He laughed sinisterly again. Let's talk about the most important question at hand. He said a name word by word, Wang Tanji. Chapter 436. Are you trying to tell me that Xiao Tan is essentially a monster or something? Feng Bujue asked. Very good. After accepting the supernatural setting, your way of thinking has suddenly opened up. Woody laughed. But your guess is wrong. Then what is it? Multiple personality disorder? Feng Bujue continued. No, Woody replied. It should be said that it is a self-protection mechanism of the soul, a kind of power that he can't fully control yet. Then this mechanism you mentioned, will it cause amnesia? Feng Bujue asked again. Of course not, Woody said. That's strange. Feng Bujue muttered. I remember. The day after that incident, Xiao Tan's family helped him apply for a week's leave and took him away from City S. Just when I thought they were going to abscond permanently. A week later, Xiao Tan came back to school as if nothing had happened. He paused. After that, I tested him a few times. He had obviously forgotten everything that happened in the alley. I also went to talk to his parents. They only said Xiao Tan had already forgotten about it, and that they should not mention it again. They were right. Because Wang Tanji's memory has indeed been isolated, Woody replied. Feng Bujue was stunned for a moment and speculated. So, he was taken abroad to be brainwashed? That's not the case, Woody said. It's just that Wang Tanji's parents were worried about their son's situation, so they took him to Dubai and asked his grandfather to help deal with it. His grandfather is a magician? Feng Bujue asked. Ha. Woody seemed to have hit a funny spot and laughed out loud. Ha. He used to be. Ha. The more he laughed, the happier he became. He even slapped his thigh. Sigh. They all call themselves geniuses, but they usually act like idiots. Arthas looked at her boss from the sofa and sighed. I'm sorry. Woody stopped laughing after a long time. I thought of something very interesting. Let me summarize. Feng Bujue said. My best friend who grew up with me, a tall, handsome, rich man with a decent job. He has some amazing supernatural power hidden in his body, and his family knew about it, but didn't take it seriously. That's because this has been a common occurrence since his grandfather's generation. Yeah, Woody replied. Feng Bujue took a deep breath. Well, I think some of the problems that have been troubling me for years have been solved. Woody continued. Are you referring to the cover-up of the murder case? He shrugged. I was in charge of covering it up, so of course it was flawless. You did it. Feng Bujue thought for a few seconds. No wonder the media didn't report this at all. I knew it, 4 people died, how could, If it wasn't me, who else could it be? Woody laughed. And are you sure only 4 people died at that time? As soon as he said this, Feng Bujue felt a chill run down his spine. His expression changed slightly. Yes, I also took care of the eyewitnesses. Woody said. This case was closed as 4 gangsters fighting, involving passers-by, and finally, the 5 of them died together. Are the police also under your control? Feng Bujue said. And how could the families of the victims accept this result? I'm the devil. I have a lot of ways, Woody said. Anyway, compared to what you did, it's more effective. Humph. Feng Bujue just snorted and didn't say anything, because he had done something similar in the past. That day, in the alley, Brother Ju's appearance helped Xiao Tan regain his sanity, but the latter immediately fainted. Therefore, the whole mess was left to Feng Bujue. Brother Ju first calmly observed the situation in front of him, then he went to check the pulse of the 4 gangsters. After confirming that all 4 of them were dead, he simply ignored the dead bodies and walked to the little fat man squatting in the corner of the alley. He began to ask about the situation just now. With the help of threats, lies, and slaps, Brother Ju managed to get the details of what had happened from the witness, who was already scared out of his mind. Then, he was faced with a major choice. Calling the police was undoubtedly the right choice. If he let the police handle this, what happened next would have nothing to do with him. Just like countless detectives said, our duty is to find out the truth. We have no right to decide the life and death of others. But Feng Bujue made another choice. He threatened the witness. He used his reasoning ability to quickly tell the witness's school, grade, and even where he lived. He also used a serious and cold tone to threaten him with violence and death. You also hate them, right? You want them dead, right? Do you think anyone will believe your words? If my friend and I testify that you killed them, it seems more believable, right? After the threat, it was time to guide the witness. This was the only way to make the witness follow his train of thought. This was the only way to make the witness believe that following what the person in front of him said was the only way out. Soon, Feng Bujue forced the witness to write down a set of statements about the internal strife between the 4 gangsters. After confirming that the witness did not dare to call the police, he let him go. Then, he began to clean up the scene and clean up the evidence. He erased all the bloody palm prints on the iron rod and imprinted the fingerprints of the deceased on it. He took off the clothing of the deceased, who was wearing a leather jacket, and cleaned the collar, cuffs, and hem of the jacket where fingerprints could easily be found. Then, he covered up the fingerprints of the deceased and threw them aside. He carefully erased all the footprints left behind by himself and Xiao Tan, as well as the palm prints on the ground. He even damaged the corpses a second time, further increasing the impact of the fractures to disrupt the autopsy. When Feng Bujue was serious about something, his ability to execute and plan was very strong. The whole process only took him 5 minutes. Finally, he took off his school uniform and put it on Xiao Tan's jacket. He carried him on his back and walked out of the alley with the 2 backpacks. In order to avoid the surveillance cameras on the nearby streets, he deliberately took 2 more alleys and passed through a residential area. Then, Brother Bujue stopped a taxi and sent Xiao Tan home. It was not a long journey, and Feng Bujue's school uniform had covered up the blood and stains on Xiao Tan's body, so the driver did not suspect anything. In less than 10 minutes, the 2 of them arrived at Xiao Tan's house. Xiao Tan's house was in a high-end neighborhood. Feng Bujue had been there several times before. He called Xiao Tan's parents over through the walkie-talkie. First, he asked them to pay the taxi fare. Brother Bujue's pocket money was very little back then. Second, he asked them to help carry Xiao Tan's body. What you did could indeed interfere with the police's investigation to a certain extent, but it was far from enough, Woody said. You should know this very well. Yeah. Even if I consciously avoided the surveillance cameras on the street when I left the alley, I couldn't guarantee that they weren't captured before they entered the alley. Feng Bujue said. After all, I was still a junior high school student at that time. Even if I could come up with a few plans to sneak into the local police station and destroy the video files, it would be difficult to implement them. He spread his hands. Of course. What worried me the most was the witness. It was only a matter of time before he told the truth. So, at the end of the day, everything you did could only delay the progress of the investigation. Woody continued, But that's all you needed to do. Because you know that Wang Tongji's family has a certain background. As long as they have time, they can do a lot of things, whether it's legal or illegal. Actually, I was already prepared at that time. I was waiting for the police to come and take me to assist in the investigation. Feng Bujue said. During that time, I watched the news every day, but there was no news at all. I originally speculated that Xiao Tan's family was the mediator, but after thinking about it, I felt that it was unlikely. After all, this was not a small case. It wasn't until today that I found out the truth. I have a question. Woody pushed on his glasses and tossed a curious look at Brother Ju. If you have enough power and can be like me, to ensure that nothing goes wrong, would you go and kill the witness to help your friend get away with the crime? How could that be possible? Feng Bujue answered quickly. I helped Xiao Tan cover up the evidence because I believed in him. I believed that his intention was legitimate self-defense. He said with a righteous expression, but if you want me to kill him, this involves another life. That witness has no grudge against me, and I have never met him. We can tell that you're lying. Arthas interrupted Brother Bujue's nonsense. TSK, why didn't you say so earlier? Feng Bujue's tone immediately became lazy and casual. Since I've decided to do it, of course, I have to do it flawlessly and eliminate the root of the problem. Well said. Woody praised him. You're really that kind of person. Oh? What kind of person am I? Feng Bujue laughed. You're the kind of person. Deep down, you view morality and the law as worthless. You always apply your own unique standards to things. Woody continued gloomily. You're the kind of person. You must be restrained by strict laws and regulations. You're the kind of person. Once you gain the power to break common sense, the consequences will be unimaginable. Your last two sentences are applicable to most humans, right? Feng Bujue said. Everyone wants to do whatever they want, right? He tilted his head. As for the first sentence, why don't you just say that I have antisocial tendencies? Very good, Woody said. A conversation between villains should be more explicit. Then I'll ask you a few questions in a more direct way, Feng Bujue said. First of all, Xiao Tan should be fine now, right? You don't have to worry about him. Woody pointed at the clock on the wall. Because he hasn't been answering the phone, so. 2 minutes ago, Gu Xiaoling drove to his house. He laughed for a while. She can handle such a small situation. Huh. Feng Bujue continued. Could it be that Gu Xiaoling is also, Don't worry, she's human, Woody said. She's not under my jurisdiction. Feng Bujue muttered. I mean, among the people I know, how many abnormal humans are there? No comment, Woody replied. Heh! Feng Bujue sneered. Then let's talk about me. He raised his hand and tapped his temple with his index and middle finger. What did you do to my brain? Do you still need to ask? I sealed your fear, Woody replied. Why? Feng Bujue asked again. Why? Heh. Woody repeated the question and then laughed again. You don't want to answer this question? Feng Bujue asked. Woody shrugged. It's not time to tell you yet. He seemed to have suddenly remembered something. Oh, but you can rest assured that this is not some physiological incurable disease. Your life is not in danger for the time being. Ha! Feng Bujue laughed dryly. His face was full of displeasure. This is really exciting news. Perhaps this news will make you a little happier. Woody continued. You're not the only one who has been sealed. Oh, who else? Feng Bujue said in a cold tone. The corners of Woody's lips curled up as he read out the name. Li Ruoyu. Feng Bujue's eyes changed. He was silent for a few seconds before saying, No, you're lying. She can feel fear. I didn't say her sealed emotion was fear, Woody replied. Feng Bujue's expression tensed. He tried to recall every moment when he was with her. He tried to recall her words and actions, but he couldn't find any clues. You won't be able to guess, Woody said. Even she doesn't know the existence of the seal. He smiled. Leroy Yu's seal was set not long after she was born. Because it's a baby's brain, it's easier to deal with it. Doing something to an adult's brain might cause a shadow, but her seal can't be seen by human medical equipment. Poof! Fong Bujue suddenly stood up and threw a punch at Woody's face. Heh heh heh! Woody's cheeks were heavily slapped, but he merely pushed up his glasses and laughed nonchalantly. Last time, I told you. When we meet again, you will be very angry. Look at that. I think my finger is broken. Fong Bujue looked down at his right fist. If our conversation can return to a rational and harmonious atmosphere, Woody said, I can consider helping you heal your hand. Fong Bujue glared at Woody with his dead fish eyes as he returned to his seat. After sitting down, he raised his right hand and gave the man the middle finger. Woody didn't mind. He snapped his fingers and helped Fong Bujue heal the wound on his hand. You must think that people like us who treat humans like toys are very despicable, right? Woody said. But have you ever considered, what kind of relationship do you have with the NPCs, monsters, and anomalies in the game? Do you think the existence from a higher dimension would care about the feelings of those from a lower dimension? Would you care about a normal zombie in a game? Would you consider what was his name before he was infected, what was his job, and whether he had a wife, a child, and parents waiting for him? Fong Bujue didn't answer. He had indeed considered these questions, but he couldn't get the answer. Or rather, he didn't want to think too deeply about it. That's just one of the problems you humans face. Woody smiled. You don't have to worry too much about it, he. You don't want to tell me the reason behind the seal, Fong Bujue said. Then at least tell me, what is the emotion behind her seal? What is it? Woody raised his head and sighed. It is a strong emotion that comes from the heart. It is an emotion that cannot be explained by any science. It is poetic and full of fantasy. It is something that will be carved into one's bones and engraved in one's mind. It will make one go crazy. It will make one throw their fists at an opponent that they cannot defeat without caring about anything else. Love, is it? Fong Bujue interrupted him. It is different from fear. The inability to fall in love with others will not be noticed by oneself. Bingo! Woody shouted. You purposely told me this information, Fong Bujue said. Woody said directly. Of course, it is to make a deal with you. What's the deal? Brother Ju asked. You help me with something. After the deal is done, not only will I remove your seal, I will remove hers as well, Woody said. You make it sound like removing her seal will benefit me greatly. Fong Bujue grumbled. Hee. Woody's glasses flashed white. You can say whatever you want. Fong Bujue asked again. Then, what do you want me to do? The goal in the near future is, Woody said, put away your sloppy attitude and do your best in the Battle of the Butterfly and then enter the final stage of the tournament for the best. By the way, Fong Bujue interrupted. I was about to ask you, what exactly is this game? I don't need to tell you that Thriller Paradise is not just a game. Woody interrupted him. The things that it can decide and the role that you will play are all incredibly important. His expression was serious. Fong Bujue, you are no more normal than the other three from Underworld Frontline. I have my reasons for placing my bet on you, so don't disappoint me. Okay, Fong Bujue said. Then what will happen after I enter the top 50? Stop her, Woody replied. Stop who? No one answered this question because before Brother Ju finished, Woody suddenly disappeared like he was never there. Only Arthas was still lying on the edge of the sofa. It yawned like it could read Fong Bujue's mind. It opened its mouth to say, No, this is not a dream. Chapter 437. This Batman-style exit. Feng Bujua muttered. He just teleported, Arthas continued. Speaking of which, Feng Bujua shifted his gaze to Arthas. What exactly are you? Biologically, I am now a male cat, Arthas replied. Is there a possibility that, under certain circumstances, you will become a sexy and shameless domineering lady? Feng Bujua asked tentatively. Hee, Arthas responded with a sneer. Feng Bujua shrugged. All right, then what is your true form? I am a pure energy creature that transcends dimensions, Arthas replied. Similar to the soul of you humans, but the structure is different. May I know your name? Feng Bujua asked. You don't need to know, Arthas said. Arthas said, didn't you already give this cat a name? Then just use it. Then, should I call you Mr. Arthas or Ms. Arthas? Feng Bujua asked. There's no need for a specific title, Arthas replied. Feng Bujua nodded. Oh, alright, Arthas, can you explain, so far, the excrement that you've placed? What's with the obvious trap nature? Of course it's a prank, Arthas replied while licking its paws. Feng Bujua's eyes twitched. Since we've already talked about it, I have a suggestion. How about you use the toilet directly in the future? Yeah. Cat litter is indeed not very comfortable, Arthas replied. Yeah. Feng Bujua nodded. Also, I'll take a shower myself in the future, Arthas added. Oh, that's another piece of good news for me, Feng Bujua said with a smile. I don't want to eat cat food anymore. If you like it, you can treat it as a snack. Arthas continued, I see that your culinary skills are not bad. From tomorrow onwards, prepare meals for me according to the standard of cooking for the guests. I want to eat 7 meals a day, more or less. You can arrange it according to the situation. As expected, it began to push its luck. Hey, I'm the master. What do you mean by treating your servants like this? Feng Bujua said unhappily. We can no longer return to the relationship between master and pet. Arthas stretched out its front paw and jumped onto the sofa. It turned around lazily. You have to be responsible for this. You didn't fulfill your duty as a pet in the first place, did you? Now you've become even worse. Feng Bujua said. By the way, why did you sneak into my house? Mainly surveillance. Arthas's ears twitched, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. When necessary, I can also protect you. It yawned again. Haha, but you're really quite cute. You usually look a little cold, but you're actually very compassionate. I acted a little cute and was successfully adopted. When you go to hell, no one wants you. Come and be my pet. Sister will love you dearly. Do you believe that I'll poison your food to kill you? Feng Bujua narrowed his eyes and replied coldly. Arthas raised one of its front paws. Do you believe that I can crush your knee with this cute meatball? I don't believe it, Feng Bujua replied. Whoosh, a silent gust of wind swept past. Brother Ju turned his head to look. There was a huge paw print on the wall of the living room. The paint on the wall didn't fall off at all, and there wasn't much movement either. However, the dent was quite obvious. It felt like a palm print that was heavily pressed onto plasticine. With a thud, Brother Ju knelt down. I'm wrong. My king, please don't be angry. Arthas used its front paws to stroke Feng Bujua's head affectionately. That's right. It paused for a moment. Oh, there's one more thing. It's about me and Woody. I'll keep my mouth shut, Feng Bujua interrupted. You're smart. Arthas yawned. I'm going to rest. Don't bother me. Cats need to sleep for a long time. So annoying. Meow meow. When it said the last few words, it had already closed its eyes. May 22nd, noon. Feng Bujua had just served lunch to Queen Arthas when the walkie-talkie at the door rang. He walked over and pressed the answer button. Wang Tangji's face appeared on the screen. It's me, Xiao Tan said. Come up. Feng Bujua responded and pressed the switch on the walkie-talkie. In less than 2 minutes, Xiao Tan arrived at Brother Ju's door. Feng Bujue opened the door and let him in. Brother Ju. Arthas is lying on the table eating your food. Xiao Tan saw this strange scene as soon as he entered the house. Haha, I love animals. Feng Bujue laughed dryly. Why is there such a big cat paw print on the wall? Xiao Tan asked again. A few days ago, I suddenly had an idea to decorate the room. But I accidentally damaged the wall. So I simply enlarged the damage area and made it look like this. Feng Bujue had already thought of this excuse in the 2 minutes when Arthas went upstairs. He said it in a methodical manner, and it matched his personality. It did not arouse any suspicion. Oh, Xiao Tan responded. Tell me. Feng Bujue quickly changed the topic. You came to find me during mealtime. Don't tell me you're here to freeload off me? He said and pointed to the sofa. The two had a good tacit understanding. Without saying much, they walked over and sat down together. Well, you should have guessed what I'm going to say, Xiao Tan said. Of course. Feng Bujue continued. This morning, some old memories suddenly popped up in your mind, right? Yeah. Xiao Tan nodded. Feng Bujue continued. It's been so long. Don't tell me you're thinking of turning yourself in? He said in an indifferent tone. I personally think, even if you do turn yourself in, the police will only treat you as a lunatic. Obviously, many years ago, the truth of this case was covered up by some kind of extreme force. Brother Bujue, Xiao Tan said very seriously, do you think it's okay for me to do this? He looked up at Feng Bujue. Even if I can avoid being punished by the law, it's still 4 lives. His eyes changed slightly. All these years, have you never been afraid of me? I killed them with my bare hands. You're asking the wrong person. Feng Bujue interrupted him. My conscience has already been fed to the cat. He glanced at Arthas. Arthas ignored him completely and continued to eat. Feng Bujue smiled and continued. If I thought there was something wrong with this, you would have been arrested a long time ago. I could have called the police immediately after the incident. He put his hands behind his head. I'm not a good person. I don't think there's an absolute standard for judging a person's good or bad, whether the 4 delinquents deserved to die or not. I'm not interested in delving into it because I don't care. I just made a decision that I won't regret when I was faced with a choice. I decided to do my best to help my friends, that's all. As for the consequences of this decision, I was already mentally prepared. The worst result would be your whole family fleeing overseas, and I would be summoned by the police. But whether it's testimony or evidence, I didn't leave any evidence behind. Plus, I was a minor at the time, so nothing would happen to me. But you're different. According to the way the 4 people died, I'm afraid no one would believe that you acted in self-defense. If someone really believed it, then you'd probably be arrested and sent to the research institute to be research material. In short, I made the decision after considering many factors. Thank you. Xiao Tan interrupted Feng Bujue's narration. He knew that Brother Bujue was about to start praising himself. What are you thanking me for? Feng Bujue asked. I don't know. Xiao Tan replied. After so many years, I don't know how many things I have to thank you for. His gratitude was sincere, but the response he got was, Oh, you don't have to worry about that. Feng Bujue said, I have a good memory, I'll make a list for you. Chapter 438. On the morning of May 23rd, the 5th and final round of the Battle of the Cocoon began. At this stage of the competition, the element of accidental advancement was almost negligible. Every player that remained was undoubtedly a powerhouse. Wang Tongji's opponent this round was a professional player from Brahman. Even though this man was not as strong as the 4 heavenly kings of Brahman, he was not to be trifled with. His ability was no weaker than a superstar player. Not long after the random allocation, This match was selected by the Dream Company as the Battle of the Round. It was broadcasted on the main screen of the shopping mall and streamed in thousands of shopping malls. Feng Bujue had already predicted this because the ID Wang Tanji had been discussed on the forum for a whole day. Even though it was not as sensational as Brother Ju when the VIP list was announced, it still attracted a lot of attention. A nameless player was able to eliminate 7 kills, who was ranked 16th on the combat ranking. Who was this person? Which studio was he from? What kind of method did he use? What mastery did he train in? Once again, rumors started to spread. Many players who knew Xiao Tan and even more players who did not know Xiao Tan popped up and started to comment on the situation. The video of Xiao Tan's past matches also gained a lot of clicks. Other than the match where he was given a bye, the other 3 matches became the focus of discussion. At this time, no one questioned Xiao Tan's ability anymore. The fact that he was given a bye seemed to have become unimportant. Looking back in Wang Tanji's 3 matches, 2 of them were one-hit kills. He did not even need a second strike to kill someone, and the match between him and 7 kills was even more impressive. Especially the last-minute battle. It was undeniably the best in the game. In conclusion, it was only natural that Xiao Tan's 5th match would be broadcasted on the main screen. However, the process of this match was not as exciting as people expected. Because the 2 of them had only fought for 3 minutes from beginning to end, and the winner had already been decided. Wang Tanji won without a ripple. He won so easily that the process looked rather boring. There were even a lot of people who suspected that his opponent was too weak. However, there were also a small number of people who saw something different from this match. The top players in the game had already listed Wang Tanji as one of the opponents that they did not want to meet the most. At 2 a.m. on the 23rd, the Battle of Cocoon officially came to an end. The top 100 of the first tournament for the best was officially announced. 90 contestants and 10 seeded contestants were on the list. The Battle of the Butterfly would begin on the morning of the 25th of May. It would also take place in sleeping mode. There was only 1 round in this stage, and the 50 winners would enter the final stage, the tournament for the best. The biggest difference between Battle of the Butterfly and Battle of the Cocoon was that the list of participants would be decided in advance and announced. Although the basis of the match was random, the difference between being random in advance and being random in the queue was like heaven and earth. The list of participants was announced in the morning of the 23rd, which meant that the players had 48 hours to prepare before the Battle of the Butterfly began. In this period of time, the participants or the teams behind the participants could do many things. For example, they could investigate the opponent's information, study the opponent's battle videos, or acquire equipment or skills that targeted the opponent. This kind of arrangement naturally caused quite a stir among the players. The forum was once again filled with panic. Many conspiracy theorists became active again, pointing out that this was the Dream Company helping the studio to scam the casual players who had no money and no power. It was undeniable that Feng Bujue, as a casual player, was indeed at a disadvantage under these rules. And the most troublesome thing was that he had to win. Firstly, he had the halo of a VIP player above his head, and he was the target of everyone. If he was defeated in a single battle, it would be hard for him to avoid being ridiculed. Secondly, he could be considered as Woody's subordinate for the time being, and he was a true member of Underworld Frontline, the Vanguard of Darkness. If he couldn't even complete the first step of this first mission, it would be too much. Therefore, Brother Ju was quite focused on this competition. But the actual situation was much more serious than he expected. This was because Feng Bujue's opponent in Battle of the Butterfly was also a VIP player, Su Huaishang. As mentioned earlier, even though this Su Huaishang was anonymous on the combat stat ranking, that didn't affect her identity as a celebrity player. The reason behind this, however, would be explained in detail. First, she was a beauty, a real beauty in real life. Second, she was a professional player and the #1 player from Red Cherry. Based on these 2 points alone, it was normal for her to be famous. No matter what era it was, the term beauty player would always attract attention. Of course, normally speaking, people didn't have high expectations for the gaming skills of these so-called beauty players, but Su Huaishang was different. She was the first female player to win an international competition. It was hard to say whether there would be no one like her in the future, but in any case, she was definitely the first in history. Before joining Thriller Paradise, Su Huaishang was already a superstar in the gaming world. In terms of popularity, Drunken Dream from Regulation and the 4 Heavenly Kings from Brahman had to step aside. Jiang, whose Laughing Blade, and the Hyodai Cowherd were nothing more than dust. In terms of looks, Yama, who was also a female player, was no weaker than Su Huaishang. She looked quite good in real life as well. But standing next to Su Huaishang, she was basically a passerby. With Su Huaishang's qualifications, she was more than qualified to enter the film industry. There were already several famous talent agencies that tried to sign her. Many experienced talent scouts stated clearly that with her appearance and presence, she could be the next Bond girl in the bag. She could be the female lead and the audience would pay the bill even if she was just a pretty face. But Su Huaishang chose to develop herself in the gaming industry. Even though the income of being a celebrity player was much lower than being a celebrity, even though it was hard for a female to make a name for herself in this industry, she didn't care. With her absolute strength, she won many accolades and became a recognized top player. Perhaps it was because of Su Huaishang's dedication to the gaming industry that the number of her fans in the gaming industry was no less than any of the famous stars in the film industry, and she had many loyal fans. In other words, she was the one and only queen in the gaming industry. It was not good for Feng Bujue to run into such an opponent. In terms of external factors, Su Huaishang had more than 1 million supporters. And the ID Feng Bujue was a legend in the city. The world had heard many legends about him, but almost no one had seen him in person, much less support him. In terms of objective power, Brother Ju was ranked 2nd on the combat ranking, while Su Huaishang was ranked 14th. They were both in the top 20 and they were both VIP players. At least based on the system's calculation. The gap between them was not that big. Furthermore, Su Huaishang was a professional player who had made a name for herself a long time ago. Brother Ju did not expect her to be that weak. Perhaps the only thing that was fair was the pre-match intelligence gathering aspect. Since neither of them participated in the Battle of the Cocoon, neither of them had recorded the match. In terms of character information, main weapon, equipment, skills, fighting style, and so on, Feng Bujue was just a casual player. He did not have a reliable channel to gather information about his opponent. And Su Huaishang, even though she had the support of her studio, Red Cherry could not do anything about Feng Bujue. In conclusion, there were many things to see in this match, and the result was hard to predict. The Dream Company did not shy away from announcing that this match would be broadcasted on the big screen and would be live-streamed first. This Battle of the Butterfly had attracted the attention of many. There were too many questions that would be answered in this match. Feng Bujue, who was this person who suddenly climbed to the 2nd place on the combat ranking? Even Su Huaishang was curious about this. Chapter 439. On the morning of the 25th of May, at the market's 10th zone, Passing Rain and Laughing Soul were there to join in the fun. They wanted to see how the commentator would announce the match. Hi beauties, long time no see. Once they entered the market, they ran into a familiar face. Oh, it's Jean Fugue. Laughing Soul giggled. Hey, can't you just call me by my nickname? Atobi really did not expect that. The first thing that came out of her mouth would be a trap for him. Then, the two from Underworld Frontline saw that there was another player in Hyodai's outfit standing next to Atobi. It was a female player, and her ID was black-white-gray. Even though black-white-gray was a female player, she was dressed in male clothing. Her hair was combed into bangs, and there was a masculine air about her. It felt like Atobi next to her was more feminine. Haha. Leader, so your name is Jean Fugue? Black-white-gray laughed. Atobi could not deny his real name, so he quickly changed the topic. Let me make the introductions. This is the wife of Master Feng of Broken Sword Chahitsu, and this is the main fighter of their organization. He was trying to pull the rug out from under them. What? Black-white-gray was confused. However, she soon saw the badge of Underworld Frontline and said, "Wow! You are..." "Yes." Passing Rain interrupted her directly to prevent her from making a fuss and attracting the attention of the surrounding people. "Leader, you're amazing. You really know someone from Underworld Frontline. Due to Xiao Tan's outstanding performance, Underworld Frontline has gained some fame." Black-white-gray turned to Atobi. "I thought you were bluffing again." Atobi was embarrassed, but he did not know how to react, so he could only laugh drily. This word, again, sure makes one's imagination run wild. Laughing Soul said with a wicked smile. "Ha, you are indeed here." Another familiar voice rang out. Long Almin waved as he walked over. "Because we knew this would be live-streamed, we decided to come and take a look." Passing Rain said. 7 kills followed beside Brother Long and greeted the 4 before him. "Nice to meet you." Oh, it's 7 kills, leader." Black-White's hands tugged on Atobi's collar and swung him back and forth, but her eyes were glued to the 2 from Blade Edge. "I saw it." Atobi was not that powerful, but he had met many important characters. Basically, for those who had become good friends with Feng Bujue, they would not be surprised no matter what happened. Long Aomin and Atobi knew each other. They had rehearsed the scenario together with Xiao Tan. Thus, after some introductions and small talk, the 6 of them stood together to watch the competition. "Right, Atobi." After a while, 7 kills was reminded of something and told Atobi, "Your club's Ming Nan trio seems to have all entered the Battle of the Butterfly. That's quite impressive." Atobi's face blushed again. Ha, yes, those 3 kids are okay, ha. He forced a smile. 7 kills was slow on the uptake. He did not see the reason for the awkwardness. Noticing the weird reaction from Atobi, he did not say anything else. He shrugged and turned back to the big screen. "Leader, even you can feel embarrassed." Black-White whispered into Atobi's ear. "Stop nagging. At least I made it to the playoffs. It's the competition schedule, Atobi explained softly. At this point, he was suddenly reminded of something. He turned to Passing Rain and Laughing Soul to ask, Speaking of which, the 2 of you have reached level 30 already, right? How come I don't see your names in the Battle of the Cocoon?" "We didn't sign up," Passing Rain answered succinctly. Laughing Soul added, "I feel like the competition is so troublesome." "You have a point. After all, you are casual players." Atobi agreed. "Even professional players will be eliminated." Black-White leaned in to give the leader another stab. At the same time, in the login lobby, Feng Bujue sat on the stool, waiting for the competition to start. With the big battle around the corner, it would be rude if he did not provide a character profile. Following was Brother Ju's information after 30 chapters. Title: Vanguard of Darkness. Title: Ability: Descent of the War Demon EXP 1995000390000. Skill points: 30,700 game coins, 1960000. Mastery: General Ability C, Workmanship C, Sleuthing D, Fighting B, Marksmanship D, Medic D, Sorcery C, Summoning D. Inventory 10/15 Mario's Wrench, Flashlight, Stool of the 18 Bronze Statues, Number 5, SCP 500-520, anti-gravity gun, Miss Moxie's bad temper, Belle of Jean Gang, life points recovery potion, X5, endless grenade box, WJQ 308 military shovel, indestructible, equipment, jazz shoes, death poker, sorcery weapon, echo armor, Artemis embrace, alchemy amplification device storage, 2/10 puzzle card, monkey puzzle card, strawberry skills column, 712, not so hasty repair, body enhancement technique, ice alchemist's persistence, southern dipper flying dragon fist. The summon, Musashi Koganu Jeppo. It could be seen that Brother Jew, who had just sold 2 million game coins at the start of May, had accumulated close to 2 million game coins by the end of May. However, when he finished his trade at the start of the month, he had about 860,000 game coins left. In other words, his game coins this month was less than half of the previous month. There were two main reasons for this. One was undoubtedly the magical disintegrator. If he sold all the equipment that was used for this thing, then it would be a sizable profit. Furthermore, Brother Jew had gone to buy a few useless excellent quality equipment to fill it up. That would be even more of a loss for him. The second reason was that after his level increased, Brother Jew would often challenge the team survival mode on nightmare difficulty. But so far he had not cleared it even once. The time he wasted on these scenarios was not worth much. Overall, in this half a month, Fong Bujue had basically maintained his character as a casual player. Because there was no competition pressure, he was quite lazy with his character. Instead, he was more concerned with Xiao Tan's competition schedule. However, after Woody's visit, Fong Bujue's attitude had to change. Therefore, in the past 2 days, he had fully utilized his game time to seriously clear some solo nightmare scenarios. As long as he cleared them, he would choose the EXP reward. With this, he quickly reached level 39. Unfortunately, this last-minute effort did not give Fong Bujue much of a boost. The equipment and skills that he had acquired during this time were mostly mediocre. There was only one fighting skill that was okay, but he did not meet the requirements to learn it. Name: Fallen Flowers Scattered Flower, Skill Card Attribute, Active, Permanent skill type, Fighting Effect. With the user as the center, all targets within a radius of 10 meters will be attacked indiscriminately, cooldown of 40 minutes. Can only be activated when using a bladed weapon, consumption, 1000 stamina points, learning requirement. Female player, Fighting Mastery B, Sorcery D. Remark: a good swordswoman knows how to use her actions to say, "Stay away from me." Brother Jew naturally gifted this skill to Passing Rain. After all, there was only one female player in Underworld Frontline who used a bladed weapon. Other than that, Fong Bujue had also obtained an excellent quality footwear, the kind with decent stats. However, he believed that jazz shoes were more suitable for him, so he placed the new pair of shoes in the guild's shared storage for his teammates to use as they wished. In conclusion, the hard work of the past 2 days did not give Fong Bujue any obvious boost. Now he did not have the time to prepare. Looking back at the half a month of sloppiness, he could not help but sigh. If he had been more diligent, he would have been more relaxed now. Of course, even if the situation remained the same, Brother Jew was not that worried. He firmly believed that as long as he had the heart to win, there would be a way. This was not because he was arrogant, and it was not because he underestimated Su Huaishang because she was a female player. If one were to ask him where his confidence came from, this narcissist would probably say, "When I get serious, even I am afraid of myself." Chapter 440. The Battle of the Butterfly is about to begin. Your data will be loaded in 30 seconds. Please do not leave the login lobby. 10 seconds before loading. 9, 8, 7, 2, 1. After the countdown ended, the system audio entered his ears. The jade butterfly pierces through the flowers, a day of flying and fighting. Following these 2 sentences, Feng Bujue was transported into the scenario. Download complete. You are currently playing the tournament for the best Battle of the Butterfly. This mode does not have a scenario introduction, hidden side quest, or unique worldview. Reward for winning the scenario: advance to the tournament for the best. Main quest triggered. Kill your opponent. Soon, the white light faded away from Feng Bujue's eyes, and his body regained the ability to move. He stood in the center of an ancient Roman Colosseum, surrounded by ring-shaped stands, but there were no spectators in the stands. Above him, the sky was high and the sun was shining brightly. Around him, it was quiet. About 20 meters before Brother Ju stood a female player. Su Huaishang was in the prime of her life. She was tall and slender. Her face was beautiful, and her skin was fair. She was an unforgettable woman. The uniform of the Red Sakura Society complemented her presence perfectly. She wore a long white dress with the picture of a blood sakura on it. It fluttered in the breeze, and she looked like a fairy. In contrast, Feng Bujue, from his appearance, he could be considered quite handsome, but there was an eerie and strange presence that radiated from him. His lazy expression and listless eyes made it hard for others to guess what he was thinking. What? Is that Feng Bujue? Is he really the player ranked second on the battle ranking? Could there be a mistake? Hey, is that Joker's style? This guy must be a Chunibyu. Does he have any real skills? So, Feng Bujue is that B** starred. If this kid dares to touch my Shang, he will pay for it with his life. In the market, Su Huaishang's supporters, normal fans, fanatics, personal guards, etc., were obviously not very friendly towards Brother Ju. Even though this was to be expected, for Feng Bujue to create such an atmosphere as soon as he appeared, it was indeed a bit over the top. Hello everyone, the Battle of the Butterfly that everyone has been waiting for is finally here. The commentator's voice sounded on the big screen. I am the commentator, Hua Xiong. I'm Pan Feng said from the side. Today I will naturally bring you another focal battle. Hua Xiong continued. Both sides are VIP players, or seeded players. I'm sure everyone is very familiar with one of them. That's right, she is Red Cherry's #1 player, the goddess in the hearts of millions of players, Su Huaishang. The audience under the main screen cheered. It looked like Su Huaishang's popularity was indeed shocking. In the market there was no lack of her fans. And the other player? Pan Feng continued. His tone turned strange, probably because he was reminded of some unpleasant memories, is a mysterious expert. Over the past month, his name has spread to every corner of Thriller Paradise, but no one has seen him in person. Today we will find out how powerful he really is. Obviously, what followed next was a chorus of boos. Even though the two players themselves could not hear the noise, Su Huaishang's fans still tried their best to express their stance. Okay, as shown on the screen, the match has officially begun, Hua Xiong said. We can see that the two players are facing each other in the middle of the field, and neither has made the first move. Pan Feng tried to find a topic to talk about. This is a battle between experts. Without knowing the other's background, no one will make a move recklessly. Based on my prediction, this battle will most likely start with long-ranged attacks. The two of them were quite clever. They cut into the main topic of the battle, and did not discuss the situation between Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang. Since these two players chose to remain anonymous on the combat stat ranking, it was not convenient for the game developers to discuss their ranking. At the same time, the battle in the Colosseum continued. Su Huaishang's weapon was a blade. Twin blades, a pair of short blades that were not that long. There were scabbards on both sides of her belt. At that moment, the blades were inside the scabbards, and her hands were beside the scabbards. However, Su Huaishang did not move for a long time. Facing this mysterious Feng Bujue before her, she was obviously cautious. Naturally, she had heard the rumor that this man was ranked second on the combat stat ranking. But the studio could not find any information on this man, and that made her feel even more unsettled. The appearance is clean, and cultured. He does not look that strong, Su Huaishang thought to herself. Even though the outfit is unique, upon closer inspection, they should be cheap goods. They are not that useful. Other than normal pockets, there are no weapons or scabbards. Her eyes wandered up and down Brother Ju's body. But I cannot rule out the possibility that this is a kind of disguise, or perhaps confidence. At that moment, Brother Ju suddenly moved. He inexplicably knelt down on one knee. What is he doing, proposing? Su Huaishang's heart skipped a beat. They were several meters apart, but she still instinctively took half a step back. The next second, Feng Bujue calmly activated his skill and summoned a weird-looking primary school student. Hiss, 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 hiss. Is it my turn to appear again? Musashi displayed his wretched figure and smiled sinisterly. Actually, the reason Brother Ju suddenly knelt down on one knee was to fulfill the condition of this summoning skill, perform a weird action. Su Huaishang soon realized that as well, but her speculation was, the activation condition of the man's summoning skill was to kneel down on one knee. Could it be that he is a summoner? Su Huaishang thought to herself. But his summoned creature does not look that strong. Could it be some kind of super-powerful summoned creature that uses psychic power or magic? Just as the suspicion rose in her heart, Brother Ju whispered something into Musashi's ear. Then the latter turned around with a wicked smile and ran away, and he ran further and further away until he left the Colosseum. What is going on? Could I have guessed correctly? Su Huaishang looked at the scene before her. She did not move, but she still opened her mouth to test the waters. You want this summoned creature to hide in the dark and ambush me from afar? Ambush me from the dark. Hee. At this point, Feng Bujue used a trick that he learned from Woody. Answer a question with a question and then add a wicked smile to it. This was a very nasty trick, but it was very practical. After using it, there was a high chance that it would enrage the opponent and it would create some psychological pressure. If you do not believe me, you can try it on other people at school or work. For example, in class, the teacher asked you, when was the Xin High Revolution? You answered, the Xin High Revolution. Hee. The leader at work asked you, where is the report that I asked you to do this morning? You laughed darkly and said, report? Hee. Then you put on an expression that said, that thing has already been used by me to clean up my own mess. In any case, this trick was tried and tested and it was very powerful. There was no sense of life or death, so please use it with caution, hee. Back to the topic. Obviously, Brother Ju's action earlier was purely to make use of the scenario to complete his character mission. Because he only had 2 more chances left to complete the mission of using the summoning skill and successfully summoning the summoned creature 50 times. Therefore, he had to give it up whenever he had the chance. But Su Huaishang did not know that. With Brother Ju's psychological tactic, she was placed under a layer of psychological pressure. But she had no idea. The thing that she was worried about was a non-combat summoned creature that had already left the battlefield. If you don't want to tell me, then so be it. Su Huaishang's brows furrowed slightly. There was a trace of anger. She added, in the middle of a battle, you have no obligation to tell me that. As she spoke, she gripped both her swords and was ready to attack. No matter what your fighting style is, I will. Her words stopped abruptly because Feng Bujue had done something else. What the? He took out a stool from his inventory. Su Huaishang looked at the scene before her, and she could not help but grumble internally. Brother Ju held the stool and waved it in the air several times. It was like a baseball player warming up before hitting a ball. His movements were quite professional. After doing all that, he took a deep breath and turned to look at Su Huaishang. I am also a man who cares about women. He paused for a moment. So, you'll soon be free from this violent competition. Chapter 441. He dares to say something like that, huh? What did the kid say? That is too arrogant. He took out a stool. What is he going to do to Su Huaishang? This is so infuriating. The audience before the main screen was getting agitated. The atmosphere of Feng Bujue has to die was spreading, ha ha ha. That does sound like something Brother Feng would say, 7 Kills commented with a laugh. That does sound like him, Atobi agreed. It doesn't matter who his opponent is, he doesn't care about anyone. This is not arrogance. This is a desperate attempt, Laughing Soul said with a drawn-out tone. What do you mean? Black-White asked curiously. Passing Rain added, from the beginning, he knew that he would be hated by the audience. Black-White thought about it. Oh, you have a point. After all, his opponent is Su Huaishang. Passing Rain added, furthermore, Bujue is the only unknown player among the 10 VIP players. Laughing Soul added, therefore, our leader knew before the match that no matter the result, from the moment the match started, he was destined to attract endless hatred. If he won, Su Huaishang's fans would definitely not agree. Long Aomin sighed. And if he lost, his identity as a VIP player would be questioned by many other players. That's not right. Suddenly, another voice spoke up. The group turned around and realized that it was Xiao Tan who was standing there talking. Aren't you in the middle of a match? Laughing Soul asked. I'm done. Xiao Tan grinned. I won. What? Everyone was shocked by this answer. The match on the big screen had not even officially started, but Xiao Tan had already defeated his opponent and exited the scenario. Your opponent is? 7 Kills asked instantly. His name is Heartbreak Fruit, Xiao Tan replied. The guild seems to be heaven and earth. Oh, it's him, 7 Kills mumbled. 7 Kills mumbled. It looked like he had fought this person before. He's quite a strong guy, but he only lasted for a few minutes. It's all right. You should be able to win against him easily, Xiao Tan commented. Ah, I suppose so, 7 Kills replied. Ever since he lost to Xiao Tan, his confidence had taken a huge hit. He had lost quite a bit of his sharpness, and in its place, he had become much calmer and more cautious. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, the commentator's shout attracted everyone's attention. After the verbal taunt from contestant Feng Bujue, contestant Su Huaishang finally made the first move. Pan Feng said, her first move was such a beautiful and powerful attack. It's too much for the eyes to take in. Hua Xiong continued, but contestant Feng Bujue appears to be handling the situation with ease. He retreated as he fought and used a stool to block Su Huaishang's powerful attack. Bastard! Go to hell! You don't even have the right to die under Shang Shang's blade. Hurry up and kill yourself to atone for your sins. Humph! What a braggart! You've been beaten to the point that you can't even fight back. Come on, Shang Shang! Kill that B******. The audience roared again. Even though their shouts could not reach the two parties involved, they were still shouting with passion. Looks like Brother Ju is indeed good at drawing hatred. At that moment, inside the Colosseum, the blades were gleaming and the two figures were moving. One person danced with 2 blades and moved like a butterfly while the other was using a stool and his moves were crude and crude. Su Huaishang's swordsmanship was fast, vicious, and dangerous. The blade could sense the murderous nature of the person and the person could sense the sharpness of the blade. His moves and styles were vigorous and overbearing. Feng Bujue, on the other hand, used the stool that he was good at. Slow, blunt, steady, not rushed, and not even a drop of water could leak out. He used seemingly simple moves to neutralize his opponent's attacks one after another. The stool had no edge. Moments later, when Su Huaishang's initial anger had calmed down, she started to re-evaluate the situation before her. Normal attacks are unable to find any weakness. That kind of calm and collected reaction. It is as if he has battled me many times already. No matter how tricky or sudden my attacks are, he is able to react perfectly or even perfectly. Her expression shifted slightly. Looks like his words and actions earlier have a deeper meaning. Not only did they create psychological pressure for me, they also messed with my emotions. This person is not as simple as he seems. With that in mind, Su Huaishang suddenly feinted an attack and then retreated. The battle that lasted for several minutes came to a temporary stop. As a professional player, Su Huaishang had naturally studied the video of Meng Jingchan vs Long Aomin match, so she was very familiar with the potential danger caused by a prolonged battle. Even though she was a woman, she rarely acted emotionally. She would not fall into her opponent's rhythm due to a moment of recklessness or blind confidence. In this regard, Su Huaishang's professionalism was far beyond the reach of many male professional players. Feng Bujue thought to himself, "She is much more cunning than I thought." He revealed a half-hearted smile. Thankfully, my zero-time difference calculation has reached a rather high completion rate. Seeing the smug smile on her brother Ju's face, Su Huaishang smiled as well, a cold smile. Her fans might be mesmerized by this smile, but Feng Bujue could only sense danger from this smile. "If I'm not mistaken," Su Huaishang said, "so far, you still have at least 30% of your power left." "Why do you say that?" Feng Bujue was testing her back. Su Huaishang did not mind. This time, it was her turn to use psychological tactic. "Because earlier I used 50% of my power." "Ha! What is there to be proud of?" Feng Bujue shrugged and laughed. "You said that I have at least 30% of my power left. That is not wrong, but the actual ratio is far from what you think." He paused. "In terms of physical skill, I have only used 8% of my maximum power." "Humph, who doesn't know how to lie?" Su Huaishang scoffed. Naturally, she did not believe him, but Feng Bujue was telling the truth. Earlier, Brother Ju also used 50% of his power, but he still had two skills, Body Enhancement Spell and Descent of the War Demon, that he had not used yet. Therefore, theoretically speaking, he did have a lot of room for improvement. "You don't believe me?" Feng Bujue put the stool away. "Then, let's try 16% first. "Oh!" Feng Bujue has made another shocking statement. Hua Xiong yelled. He was probably trying to liven up the atmosphere. He claimed that in the intense battle earlier, he only used 8% of his power. He paused for a second. "Brother Pan, what do you think about that?" Pan Feng added, This should be a bluff. If we follow Feng Bujue's statement, then he only needed to use 30% of his power, and Su Huaishang would have been at a disadvantage." The audience also thought that Brother Ju was lying. Instantly, there was another round of scolding. This piece of trash should come up with a better plan before he starts to spout nonsense. Is he out of his mind? Shang went easy on him and he got carried away. But there was a small group of people who had a different opinion. Hey, is he really that good? 7 Kills turned to ask Xiao Tan. Long Aomin, Atobi-sama, and Black White Gray all turned around to listen to what the members of Underworld Frontline had to say. Xiao Tan replied thoughtfully, "In terms of data, I suppose so." "No." Passing Rain finally spoke. Her face was as dark as water. In a confident tone, she said, "He is much stronger than that." At the same time, in the scenario, Brother Ju's counterattack had begun. He did not use any weapon. He only used his fists and legs to fight Su Huaishang. His fists moved like lightning and his movements were unpredictable. Even when faced with his opponent's dual blades, he was not at a disadvantage. He really doubled his power. This time, Su Huaishang had used 90% of her power, and she was barely able to fight her opponent to a draw. In a battle between experts, the last of their power would not be used so easily. It was something that was reserved for the most crucial moment or to deal with an unexpected situation. If one party was forced to the point where they had to fight with their full power every second, it meant that the situation was very bad for them. At that moment, Su Huaishang was at this critical point. Even though she was unwilling to admit it, at this point, she had to admit that her opponent's power was indeed above hers. This is not good. Even if his physical skill has reached its limit, I am still in danger. Su Huaishang thought to herself. He is using his fists and legs to fight against my weapons. If the conditions are equal, I am afraid I will not be able to hold on. With that in mind, she could not help but feel fear. What if he is really only using 16% of his power, then? She hesitated for a second. That is impossible. I am also a player ranked in the top 20, the gap between us cannot be that big. Stop spacing out, heroine Su. Feng Bujue's words interrupted her train of thought. Brother Ju not only had the energy to speak in this intense battle, he even managed to speak in a relaxed tone. His breathing was not erratic at all. This undoubtedly gave his opponent a strong psychological hint. Humph! You are getting ahead of yourself. Su Huaishang snorted coldly. Then she twisted her slender waist and extended her jade-like hands. The short blade in her left hand slashed horizontally. Feng Bujue's expression was calm. He tilted his neck and raised his wrist. His right palm suddenly pulled inward. With his fingers like a sword, he aimed for Su Huaishang's shoulder. This kind of counterattack, had caused Su Huaishang to suffer many setbacks. She had never encountered an opponent like this before. He was able to come up with a counterattack that was difficult to deal with. Seeing that her attack was being countered again, she had no choice but to take a step back. Then she twisted her waist and lowered her left elbow. She abandoned the blade and used her elbow to elbow Feng Bujue's right rib. Brother Ju saw that his opponent had fallen for his trick and knew that his time had come. He took the attack head-on, ignoring the 7% loss of life points, and activated Southern Dipper Flying Dragon Fist. And Su Huaishang could not avoid it any more, of course. A top player had their own strength. At this critical moment, she used a skill almost instinctively. Name: Northern Heaven Cross Sparrow Skill Card Attribute. Active, permanent skill type. Fighting effect. Activate a cross-shaped ice elemental slash with a sharp blade. Cooldown time is 12 minutes. Can only be activated when using a sword-type weapon. Consumption: 400 stamina points. Learning requirement: Fighting serene, a skill created by a northern swordsman. Due to his high level of kung fu, he became obsessed with martial arts in his later years. He tried to write a book that would rule the world forever, but every time he created a skill, it would be broken. In the end, even though he created a large number of skills, he discarded them all as useless. In the end, he died of depression. Su Huaishang's reflexive actions had allowed her to minimize the damage she had sustained. Northern Heaven Cross Sparrow not only nullified most of the damage from Flying Dragon Fist, it also managed to apply a freezing effect on Feng Bujue's hand. In this battle, it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. The light faded and the battle stopped. The two figures retreated to a safe distance, stabilized themselves and made temporary adjustments. It sounded long, but the time that Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang used to counter each other was only several seconds. At that moment the market was completely silent. Even the two casters took a long time to process what had just happened. Both parties have used their skills and are now facing each other head-on, Hua Xiong said, but it is still unclear who has the upper hand. From the live feed, we can see that contestant Feng Bujue's hand has been imbued with a freezing effect. Pan Feng said, and under his ultimate, Contestant Su Huaishang is probably quite injured as well. B** starred. Go to hell. Death penalty. How dare you attack my Shang? You have to chop off your hand. Not long after that, a few of Su Huaishang's personal guards started to shout again, but this time, their voices were lacking in confidence and the number of normal players who supported them decreased greatly. The scene just now had already explained a lot of things. Even a player with average skill level could see some clues. Even though this kind of close combat might not look impressive, that was the difference between an expert and a normal player. The same person had 2 hands and 2 legs, but what they could do, a normal player would not be able to do. Even though Su Huaishang's fans did not like Brother Ju, before the truth, they had nothing to say. Feng Bujue's quick reaction and strange movement were indeed one of a kind. With the support of Soul's Eye, he could use the seemingly chaotic movement to complete the correct response with extreme precision. This kind of fighting style was unique, and the players who watched the match that day had their eyes opened to a whole new world. Is this really only 16%? Brother Long's head was covered in cold sweat. This time, even Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul were shaken. There was only one person who had the confidence and qualification to answer this question, and she was the only one who had fought Feng Bujue at his peak. Yes, he is much stronger than that. Passing Rain's expression was normal, and she said lightly, "Let's keep watching." Something crossed her eyes. Su Huaishang hasn't used her full power yet. Hiss. Phew. After Su Huaishang adjusted herself, she straightened her body and took a deep breath. Her blushing cheeks and rising chest made people unable to take their eyes off her. Her rosy cheeks and plump chest were enough to make a girl take a second look. Feng Bujue's gaze naturally stopped on her body, but his eyes were cloudy and unpredictable. It was hard to tell what he was thinking. Was he admiring the beauty or was he wary of the enemy? Only he knew. Ha. Feng Bujue suddenly laughed again. As he laughed, he started to warm up. He raised his left arm horizontally across his chest and extended it to his right. At the same time, he bent his right arm and pulled his left arm towards his body and twisted his waist to the right. After doing it once, he changed his arm, changed his direction, and did it again. Are you ready? Feng Bujue asked. Ready for what? Su Huaishang asked in return. Are you going to lead me through the broadcast gymnastics? Ha! Feng Bujue laughed. I'm asking you, are you ready for the 32%? Once that was said, Su Huaishang's face paled. She thought to herself, he can still improve. How is that possible? The viewers in the market were complaining as well. This Feng Bujue is actually Brother Toguro, right? That was not a bad trick you used earlier. As Feng Bujue spoke, he started to do some unnecessary stretching exercises. He looked like a primary school student doing morning exercises. Could this be the unique skill of the legendary Sirius Wolf Blade, Frozen Snapper Mountain? His line was hard to believe. From the name of the weapon to the name of the skill, everything is wrong. Su Huaishang lowered her head to look at the butterfly blades in her hands. It's one thing to call the opponent's weapon a cleaver. But what kind of mentality is that? Outside the stage, Su Huaishang's fans had their brains short-circuited. Because their goddess had just complained, and the thing was, it was quite believable. Passing Rain sighed softly. Looks like another healthy young man has been led astray by you, What a sin. Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul said in unison. I believe 32% is enough. Feng Bujue soon brought the topic back on track. You should be mentally prepared by now, right? I shall wait and see. Su Huaishang had already set her eyes on a consumable skill in her skill bar. She planned to bet everything on this. By the way, after this match is over, I will be cursed to death by your fans, right? Feng Bujue was not in a hurry to make his move. He seemed to have the victory in his hands. He said calmly, I have waited for so long for my idol to appear on the stage, and now I'm going to be eliminated in the first match. They will be able to hear what you're saying now." Su Huaishang reminded him. "Yes, I know that. Why else do you think I'm saying this?" Feng Bujue said as he raised his head. "System, can you give me a close-up?" He waited for a few seconds and the system really did give him a close-up, ladies and gentlemen. Feng Bujue revealed a maniacal smile. Every detail on his face was displayed on the giant screen. If my prediction is correct, at this moment, your idol still has 1 or 2 skills up her sleeve. Other than that, her physical skills can be forcefully increased by another 20 to 30%. His words hit the nail on the head. Su Huaishang's heart skipped a beat. But, as Feng Bujue said that, he suddenly took out 2 grenades from his chest. He raised them to his lips and bit off the 2 pins. She can only hold on for another 30 seconds. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. He started to laugh maniacally. His body was suddenly covered in a layer of red light. His whole body shot towards Su Huaishang like an arrow. Chapter 442. At that moment, all that was left in Su Huaishang's vision was a blurry shadow. She knew in her heart that she could no longer keep up with this kind of speed. But she had no intention of giving up. If anything, she focused even more. Since the 2 grenades are of the same model and the fuses were pulled at the same time, then the explosion must have happened at the same time. Su Huaishang's mind raced. He couldn't have held the grenades in his hand to blow me up, so, in this dangerous situation, she made the correct judgment. No matter how crazy Feng Bujue was acting, it was just part of his psychological warfare. He would not do something like self-destruct when he had the upper hand. As expected, just as the grenades were about to explode, Feng Bujue stopped abruptly. He used the inertia to toss out the 2 grenades. Then he bounced off the ground and leaped backwards. The 2 explosive objects flew towards Su Huaishang from 2 sides in a triangle formation, vaguely concealing her within. Normally, she would have 2 options to deal with this situation. 1 was to jump upwards, 2 was to retreat backwards. But Su Huaishang's keen combat instinct led her to choose the 3rd option, which was to charge forward. She crossed the 2 swords in her hands and charged forward. 2 slashes were ready to be unleashed. The 2 grenades brushed past her body, and the distance between them widened. Boom boom, the 2 explosions sounded almost at the same time. The explosion happened about 7 or 8 meters behind Su Huaishang. The shrapnel that flew out did not cause too much damage to her. In fact, the shock wave from the explosion helped her and allowed her to get close to Feng Bujue, who was moving backward. "That was a good response," Feng Bujue mumbled, "but you are still too slow. If you charge at me like this, you won't even last 30 seconds. A golden light flashed in his hand and a poker card that was held between his right index and middle finger slid out. Blood splattered everywhere, but the person did not fall. Feng Bujue was surprised for the first time in this battle. This was not a good sign, Su Huaishang was still laughing. Even though her neck had been slashed open, the expression on her face did not look like someone who was about to lose. "So, this is your trump card." Feng Bujue's eyes moved down and saw something that Su Huaishang was holding in her hand. Name, 8 Jingxia pill type, other rarity, legendary special effect, unknown remark, a holy relic once soaked in the blood of the goddess. Su Huaishang chanced upon this item in a team's nightmare scenario. Together with a piece of skull, it was kept inside a dark room at Sky Grass City. Next to this item was a scroll, which was essentially a skill card. Name, Soul Advent Skill Card Attribute, special skill, disappears after 1 use. Skill type, Spiritual Arts, effect. Summon the power of the sword masters from another world, lasts for 5 minutes. Consumption, 8 Tranquil Clouds pill, sprinkle the 8 Tranquil Clouds pill with the fresh blood of the moment of death to activate. Learning requirement. Level 40 and above, skill card cannot be traded after it is acquired. Remark. In the state of soul advent, life points, stamina points, and sorcery points will be infinite. The skill bar will break through the limit and you will be able to use all the skills of the sword masters. After the skill ends, life points, stamina points, and sorcery points will drop to 1% and you will not be affected by any buff items for the next 3 minutes. This skill was originally reserved to deal with sky-swallowing Phantom Dawn. Su Huaishang's tone suddenly became very calm. The holy relic in her hand was dissolving into white light. I have fought him once and that was the only time I have felt complete despair in battle. She paused. Who would have thought you would give me the same feeling? As she spoke, the wound on her neck was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. By then, Feng Bujue had retreated more than 10 meters away. The moment his opponent activated the skill, he instinctively felt a huge sense of danger. If you are only using 32% of your power now, Su Huaishang said as she sheathed the blade in her left hand. She held the blade with both hands. Then I suggest you use everything you have now, or else. The short blade in her right hand suddenly released a wave of murderous intent. The blade turned solid and the blade morphed into a state of light that was 3 times longer than it was before. Feng Bujue knew something was wrong. This was not a situation that he could handle with his bare hand. He quickly pulled out a stool and a military shovel. He held one in each hand. In a way, he was wielding 2 weapons, but he looked like he was going to dig coal. Oh! Everyone, please take a look. Contestant Su Huaishang's fatal wound has healed instantly. What is going on? Hua Xiong yelled. Looks like she did not use any medical skill. Pan Feng added, based on my experience, she has probably activated some kind of transformation skill, but there is no obvious change to her appearance. The 2 of them were not really that good. Actually, the 2 of them were just putting on an act. GMs like them had a different view of the competition. Other than the normal battle footage, they could also see the system's battle log on the split screen. They would know what items and skills the players used. Without this function, the 2 of them would have a hard time commentating. Of course, the battle log didn't record the exact amount of HP and stamina the 2 players had left. This was to prevent the commentator from accidentally predicting the outcome of the battle. Good. Our goddess is the strongest. She will not lose. Kill that arrogant kid. 30 seconds have passed. He has been slapped in the face. Ha! Shang, you can do it. Kill him. Another wave of cheers erupted from the audience. Everyone was happy to see Feng Bujue being turned around. It feels like she has suddenly turned into a different person. Xiao Tan looked at the screen with contemplation. The way she holds the sword, the footwork, the distance between her and her opponent, the way she breathes. He commented. That is impressive, Humph. That's more like it. Passing Rain smiled. Things are getting interesting. Atobi turned around in shock. Hey, big sister, what's with that expression? Don't tell me you're actually supporting Su Huaishang? Passing Rain smiled but did not answer. In terms of position, she was naturally on Brother Ju's side. But she also wanted to see Feng Bujue suffer. Back in the Colosseum, you've created your own, Wu Ming. Su Huaishang said. She moved her blade and the blade suddenly became longer and narrower. That sounds familiar. Feng Bujue mumbled. Who is that weapon again? Su Huaishang ignored him. She took 1 step forward and with a twist of the blade, she leaped into the air. A beautiful crescent-shaped slash came at her. Flying swallows 6 consecutive slashes. Feng Bujue took half a step back. He crossed the stool and military shovel and prepared to fight. With both of his feet on the ground, it was easier for him to leverage. His opponent, on the other hand, was in midair. In a head-on clash, Brother Ju had the upper hand because he had more tricks up his sleeve. But, after 2 clanking sounds, the 2 weapons in Feng Bujue's hands were knocked away. Thankfully, He had a strong grip and did not let go of the stool and shovel. However, his arms were involuntarily thrown backward. He staggered back about 8 steps before he could steady himself. WTF? Feng Bujue cursed in his mind. Are you kidding me? What was that item that she used just now? A spiritual item that contains the power of a master? Can you still block it? Su Huaishang stopped her attack and landed lightly on the ground. But this is just the beginning. When she said that, her body moved and she suddenly appeared before Brother Ju. The latter's reaction was also very fast, and he met her attack head-on. Secret Sword, Fine Snow, Secret Sword, Dreamy Dawn and Secret Sword, Burning Sun were all used consecutively. Su Huaishang's Iajutsu was seamless and her attacks were powerful. Feng Bujue felt like he could barely block her attack. If it was not for his soul's eye, he would have been severely injured. Something is not right. This is not just about getting stronger. Feng Bujue said, this is like a completely different person fighting me, humph. Let's see how long you can last. Su Huaishang had gained the upper hand. She was getting more and more used to the soul's advent state. She twisted her wrist and the blade lengthened again. A faint purple light appeared on the blade. This time, the weapon that was formed by the purple light was a famous blade from the ancient Yin sword school, Plum Ing Poison. After Su Huaishang changed her blade, she charged forward again. She did not care about the consumption of her energy. She could attack as she pleased. 100 ghosts kill. Before she finished her sentence, she had already reached Feng Bujue's side. The energy from her blade was like a raging wave. The energy from her blade was like a lightning dragon. Feng Bujue finally could not hold it in any longer. Initially, he wanted to preserve some of his power in this match, but from the looks of it, he had no choice but to give it his all. You are forcing me to be serious, he said as he leaped into the air. Brother Ju, with his body enhancement spell, could jump at least 20 meters. After he leaped into the air above the arena, he immediately leaned sideways and used a very awkward posture to use Jeppo. For a moment, he began to spin like a spinning top. Half a second later, he used the momentum of the spinning kick to continuously perform Rankyaku with one leg. What was supposed to be a curved kick was now like a tornado rushing down. Do you think you're the only one who knows how to shout out the name of a skill? Feng Bujue shouted as he continued to attack. Look at my self-created Thunderbolt of the 9 Suns, Mad Dragon Drill. The audience in front of the main screen said in unison, that's obviously Wang Xiaohu's Dragon and Tiger Sex move. At that moment, Su Huaishang had also leaped into the air. She originally wanted to chase after her opponent, but Brother Ju had jumped before her. This short delay allowed her to counterattack. Humph! Cherry Blossom Slash. Su Huaishang raised her hand and slashed in the air. The sword energy that she released turned into a cherry-pink light plate. It created a series of afterimages and blocked Feng Bujue's attack. T-sit. Rubber Battle Axe. Feng Bujue stopped spinning and kicked high above his head. He then used his heel and performed Rankyaku again. A thick arc of light came crashing down. It's neither rubber nor battle axe. Su Huaishang complained again. But that was not the main point. At that moment, she took out the sword in her left hand from its scabbard and combined it with the hilt of the sword in her right hand. The two of them combined into one and turned into a long-handled tachi. It was still made of light. This was the Thousand Liang Mad Dead Man's weapon, women's room. How about I change it to Yuega Tenzho next time? Feng Bujue said. Bloody Wind Soul Joy. Su Huaishang held the blade and spun it around like a whirlwind. The whirlwind that was released from the whirlwind quickly dispelled Rankyaku's attack. In the blink of an eye, she was already closing in on Feng Bujue. Who's afraid of who? I'll spin too. Feng Bujue opened his arms and waved his stool and military shovel. He mimicked his opponent's movements and attacked downwards. Blood Smoke Dance. He also roared and used the thousand liang mad dead man's skill. Pang 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 pang. Their weapons clashed, sparks flew in all directions, and their do-chi collapsed. The air of the arena was chaotic, and the energy in the air was like a dense fog, condensing and not dispersing. In the market, the audience was silent again. All they could feel was shock. This match was without a doubt the most exciting match since the beginning of the tournament for the best. Even though the battle between the Heavens and Vishnu was also a battle between the top 20 players, the battle between the two was not as beautiful and exciting as this one. After all, Su Huaishang used a super powerful skill that could only be activated by consuming a legendary item. Compared to Descent of the War Demon, the effect of the skill could only be said to be better. The level of this battle, from the moment the skill was activated, had been raised to another level. Su Huaishang, you can do it! Don't lose. Shang. That kid is a bit too stubborn. That guy is a monster. He can hold on even with a stool and a military shovel. The crowd's disgust toward Feng Bujue did not decrease, but it was replaced with respect. In the arena, the two of them were locked in a battle of extreme moves, and it was hard to tell who was the winner. But as time moved on, Su Huaishang, who was at the lower end, was more and more affected by the gravity. She was naturally aware of this. She also didn't want to fight over this time and place. Therefore, with a thrust of her saber, she turned around and ended the confrontation. Feng Bujue felt like he had been pardoned. His two arms were about to give out. Thankfully, his opponent pulled back at that moment, giving him a chance to catch his breath. You're lying. Su Huaishang floated down from the air, and a smug smile appeared on her face. The 32% that you mentioned is actually your full power, isn't it? Feng Bujue was also descending. He scoffed. Do you really want to fight me at my full power? He paused. I am 3 times stronger than I am now, humph. If that is true, I would like to see it for myself. Su Huaishang landed on the ground. The polearm in her hand was split into 2 again, and it turned into 2 blades. The light on the blades changed again, and they turned into 2 tachi, one long and one short. Feng Bujue also landed safely on the ground. His eyes fell directly on his opponent's weapon. Let me guess. This time it's Yamato Shohu Tetsuki. I can't even memorize the names of all the skills and weapons in the skill list, but you can recite them directly. Su Huaishang replied. In a way, you are indeed quite impressive. Based on my speculation, the thing that you used earlier, Feng Bujue continued. It allowed you to gain the skill of all the characters in the samurai. Your blade also gained the ability to transform into any character's weapon. As he said that, he put the stool and military shovel back into his inventory. Other than that, from the rhythm of your attacks and the choice of skills, I believe the exhaustion of your attacks is negligible. He opened his arms and smiled. This state has a certain duration, right? Hearing that, Su Huaishang was shocked. To be able to say the first 2 was nothing. At most, it could prove that this man was a shut-in and was very familiar with the settings of the samurai. But to be able to say the last one, that was not easy. When the enemy's power suddenly skyrocketed and they attacked continuously, the most important thing for a person to consider would be how to solve the problem before them, but Feng Bujue was thinking deeper, and further. During the intense battle, he had already made a calm and precise decision. What can you change, even if you know? Before Su Huaishang finished her sentence, she moved again. After she activated the skill, she did not show any panic because she wanted to create a psychological illusion, to make her opponent think that the buff would last forever. That would create fear and panic. But this Feng Bujue's reaction surprised her. He was so calm that it was infuriating. At this point, Su Huaishang had no reason to pretend to be calm and chat with her opponent anymore. If they wanted to talk, they could talk during the battle. What can I change? When Feng Bujue said that, He also activated Descent of the War Demon. Perhaps someone would ask why Brother Ju did not use the combination of Descent of the War Demon and Body Enhancement spell from the start. That way, Su Huaishang would be caught off guard and killed instantly. Actually, this was not that complicated because the cost of Descent of the War Demon was too high. Once it was used, there was no way out. If the battle was not finished within the time limit, then the only thing left to do was to wait for death. Feng Bujue did not know Su Huaishang that well. He did not know what kind of skills she had. If Su Huaishang had some kind of special skill that could save her from being killed instantly or she could hide herself, then once the 3 minutes of Descent of the War Demon was over, Brother Ju would be lying on the ground, waiting to be trampled on. At this point, Feng Bujue was cornered to the point where he would be killed if he did not activate his skill. Then, there was nothing to be worried about. Black energy rushed into the sky, and the sky changed in the blink of an eye. Fear, like a pair of invisible hands, gripped Su Huaishang's throat. Her movement stopped. She could feel an extremely scary presence descending before her. 100%, that's about it. Feng Bujue's body was enveloped in a layer of raging and violent black energy. His expression was as dark and calm as ever. However, his eyes were filled with endless fanatical fighting spirit. You asked for it. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.